Honorable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in Thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and our good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. Amen. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service, and honor shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people, that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, item 3, formal communication by the Speaker. Honorable members, I welcome you all back to the chamber and to the business this week. Yesterday, Monday, June 28th, I participated in the 2021 National Population and Housing Census led by the Ghana Statistical Service. It was a very smooth exercise. As a leader who also looks out for his people, I do recall asking all honorable members of Parliament last week, and this was delivered by the Second Deputy Speaker, to endeavor to travel to your respective constituencies to get counted. Over and beyond getting counted, I charge you to ensure that your constituents take part in this national exercise. To facilitate that, I directed the clerk that the egress to and from your constituencies should be facilitated by Parliament, including financial support to you for awareness creation in your constituencies via the media on the importance of the National Population and Housing Census. I trust the monies for this were released to honorable members, and that you delivered the assignment as expected. Please bear in mind that our role as members of Parliament in this exercise is not over yet. I will encourage you to visit your constituencies frequently during the pendency of the census to ensure that every person is counted. The population and housing census is not new to us. Unlike many national exercises of this nature, they neither take anything away from us nor hurt us when we participate in them. In fact, the benefits of participating are immense for a country like ours. We need as much data as we can gather about all spheres of national endeavor to enable us to plan the development of this country better. Honorable members, as I told the media after my enumeration, the census is critical to planning, budget, and facilitating the state's response to the challenges facing our society. I made it clear that the census is very vital to our survival, the quality of our lives, and the development of the country. Since 1891, we have conducted numbering exercises to obtain data for planning purposes. The census is therefore a call to get counted in order to make Ghana work better. Data from the census will help the central and local governments to plan interventions in the provision of educational, health, housing, and other social services. The census in this country was in 2010. Since then, there definitely have been numerous changes in the structure and spread of the population, and with it, the demands for infrastructure, delivery of utility services, transportation, health, housing, education, among many others. In the run to the 2020 general elections, I do recall the demands from individuals and groups, particularly civil society organizations, for a national population census to be conducted first, before proceeding with the compilation of the new electoral register. We have that now, and it is better late than never. Honorable members, I am told a number of you have employed different strategies to promote and enhance awareness of the census in your constituencies. I want to encourage you all not to go into this exercise with any partisan divisions. This is a national exercise that knows no party colors. It is an exercise for the development and growth of this country. It might feel intruding for, quote, strangers from the Ghana Statistical Service to come into your homes, your offices, and your private spaces to ask all kinds of questions that might be private on any regular day. I believe with the awareness created so far, and with the support of honorable members of this House, our constituents will not turn such people away. According to the Australian author, Max Barry, I quote, "People resist a census, but give them a profile page, and they will spend all day telling you who they are," unquote. How I wish we all treat the census as a profile page. I must commend the media civil society, the religious community, schools, and all those who are playing different roles to mobilize, educate, and sensitize the public. The Ghana Statistical Service cannot do it alone, and therefore we all must continue to extend the support we can to see to the success of the census. I will advise the Ghana Statistical Service officials who are conducting the census to not let their training and professionalism be their guide. The exercise could be a difficult one, but in all situations, expertise and competence of the Ghana Statistical Service staff must shine through. I remain confident of a very successful 2021 National Population and Housing Census. Together, we shall make it a success. Let me conclude by saying everybody resident in Ghana counts, and so all get counted. I count. I am counted. You count. Get counted. I thank you all for your patience and understanding. Honorable members, we are compelled to respond to the requirements and needs of the people we represent in this House. As a result, we will have to program ourselves as to be able to respond to these needs and requirements. It looks practically impossible for us to always start or commence proceedings at 10 a.m. And so I'm directing that except Fridays and under exceptional circumstances, proceedings in this House will commence at 2 p.m. I say I direct. So this is not the time for me. This is the time for me to direct. Again, I want to reiterate that your ability to catch the eye of the speaker includes good behavior. When speaker is speaking and you decide to hold private meetings and converse, the speaker takes note of those involved. And I can tell you it will be more difficult for you to catch my eye next time. This definitely will be in line with reciprocity. And I mean what I've said. I just realized that some of you, and there are particular persons who have decided to behave that way. It is not the majority, just a few of you, who, for what reason, decided not to be honorable. And please, If you don't want to be, definitely we'll help you not to be. With this, we move to item 4, correction of votes and proceedings and official reports. The votes and proceedings of Thursday, 24th June 2021 is what we'll start with. Page 1. Page 6. Page 7. Yes, Honorable.
Yeah. Right, Honorable Speaker. Page 7, item number 14. I was here on the 24th of June, but I was marked absent. I could see that Humboatin.
Page 7, number 14 of item 4. Boatin Akwasi Dakun. You said you were present?
Yes, please.
Table office, kindly take note. Page 8. Page 9. Yes, Deputy Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with respect to item 9, I'm not too sure the intention was to describe the first line as the Right Honorable Speaker recognized. I think it was the second Deputy Speaker who was in the chair. So if that correction could be made.
Table office, it was the second Deputy Speaker. Yes, please.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, in addition to that, the last sentence, the Parliamentarians Association for Human Rights were in the country, it should either be to hold a consultative meeting or to hold consultative meetings. It's not clear exactly what is being communicated, but this rendition is not appropriate. So if it could be clarified, Mr. Speaker.
Table office, take note. It's either one or many. And if it's one, it's A. So you insert it to hold a consultative meeting. If it's more than one, and I believe it was more than one, so it's to hold consultative meetings. Page 10. Page 11. Yes, Honorable Blackwell.
Right Honourable Speaker, please. Page 11, item number V. The motion is incomplete. It ends with 1. I believe that it should be 1 district, 1 factory. So it should be completed. We have here, it's Myro Forestry Ghana Limited under the implementation of the one, I want to believe it's 1 district, 1 factory.
Table office, take note. Page 12. Page 13. Yes, Honorable Blackwell.
Right Honourable Speaker, please, at page 13, is the Finance Committee. The committee met is either Wednesday 23rd June or Thursday 24th June. But as it is here, it cannot be Wednesday 24th June. So since I'm not a member of the committee, I don't know when they met, but it certainly cannot be Wednesday. Wednesday is 23rd June. But if they met on the 24th, then it should be a Thursday.
Yes, members of the committee, which day did you meet? Finance Committee.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes,
I'll be pleased if the honourable member could repeat what he said.
He said Wednesday is not 24th. If it's Wednesday, then it's 23rd. But if it's 24th, then it's Thursday.
And it's in respect of...
Please address the speaker.
A member of my committee has advised that it was a Wednesday, so the date should be changed to reflect the Wednesday. Thank you.
So Wednesday, 23rd. Honorable members, page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17. Honourable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of the 18th sitting of the second meeting of the first session held on Thursday, 24th June 2021, as corrected, are adopted as a true record of proceedings.
Right Honourable Speaker, we pray for your leave to vary the order of business, and if that is granted, we would like to proceed with item 8A and C. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 8A and C.
Honourable members, I grant leave in accordance with order 53-2. And so we'll move to item 7. Presentation of papers. Motion well, the content page gave a different number. Item, if it is item 8, then I have to start with at the commencement of public business. Item 8, presentation of business of papers. The following papers to be presented. 8A, by the Minister for Youth and Sports.
Agreement between the Government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Youth and Sports, and the African Union, represented by the African Union Commission, relating to the technical and material hosting of the 13th African Games in Accra, Ghana in 2023.
Honourable members, the paper has been accordingly presented to the House and referred to the Committee on Youth and Sports for consideration and report to the House. Item 8B, by the Minister for the Greater Accra Region.
Mr. Speaker, the application was in respect of 8A and C. With respect.
Your application was in respect of item 8.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, I was specific with respect.
You were specific.
It is so.
That did not come to my notice.
Very well. 8A and C, Mr. Speaker. A and C, Mr. Speaker.
8C, by the Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister is unavoidably absent. Instead, the Deputy Minister is here. If, Mr. Speaker, leave could be granted for him to lay the paper.
Yes, Minority Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with the greatest of respect, we get the minister to do this himself. Mr. Speaker, you agree with me. We've seen a number of instances where we get other ministers or deputies to lay papers and ministers come to say that they are not aware. Mr. Speaker, aside that, the Minister for Local Government has questions to answer today. And Mr. Speaker, I want to crave your indulgence that we believe the minister himself must be here to answer the question if he thinks the business is important to him or his ministry. Mr. Speaker, the paper should not be permitted for a deputy to lay. Let the minister himself come to do that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Majority Leader, what was the purpose of you making this special application if the minister himself was not present?
Mr. Speaker, you advised us not to surprise you. I was on the assumption that we have some understanding, but it appears that the assumption was based on some miscommunication. I would reach out to my colleague on it and plead with him to rest his case. The Minister, Honorable Dangote, is well and known in this House. He is not an absentee minister. And we are pleading, Mr. Speaker, we are pleading. It was based on that understanding that I made the application. So, Mr. Speaker, I humbly pray that if, Speaker, we are pleading that the essence of having a deputy minister,
That's right,
is to assist
the deputy
is
minister
to assist the minister.
He's assisting the
And
minister.
Mr. Speaker, I do not intend litigating this. I would only plead with Honorable Minority Chief Whip. I'm only pleading if the understanding we had was miscommunicated. Please let him lay the paper. I am just pleading, most humbly.
Yes,
Mr.
Honourable.
Speaker, the understanding we had was that the Minister for had other agent engagement. And therefore, if we could vary to allow the Minister for Youth and Sports to lay this paper so that he can quickly go. And we said that, oh, that is understandable since it's in the House. We never spoke about local government minister. Now, Mr. Speaker, on the other paper today, the Minister for Local Government has series of questions to answer. So why are we in a hurry to vary the order of the day to allow a deputy minister to lay a paper? And I'm saying that, Mr. Speaker, this is not acceptable for us. Therefore, allow the minister to come, since he has questions to answer. When he's here, then he lays the papers. But what we've understood, we had an agreement was, Minister for Youth and Sports, let's stick to what we agreed. Don't vary it to areas that we did not have a common understanding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, this is a House of Precedents. This is a House of Precedents. This is a House of Precedents. And Minority Chief Whip has been on the other side before, where he had to champion government business. He is only laying the paper. If as it were, the Minister for Local Government has gained notoriety for not coming, then your argument may be well founded. I'll plead with you. Let him do it. After all, OB is your own friend, Senior Deputy Minister. Senior Deputy Minister, Mr. Speaker, he has given a smile, and I presume he has abandoned his application. He's a Senior Deputy Minister, a friend in whom you are well pleased. Let him lay the paper. I mean,
Honourable Member, you are referring to a Senior Deputy Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that is between the two of us. Mr. Speaker, I've withdrawn it for the records. But, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I see my First Deputy Speaker on his feet. Yes, please.
And thank you, Mr. Speaker. Kindly forgive me. I don't know what happened, but I've lost my voice. But Mr. Speaker, am
I listening to the First Deputy Speaker?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, somebody says that it's a must know. I don't know what happened yesterday. After a very hot coffee, I lost my voice. Mr. Speaker, I'm on my feet to suggest that some of the things we do become precedents, which may in fact impede the House of Business if we allow them to start. Indeed, in this House, on many occasions, when ministers are not available, we seek your leave and we allow the deputies to do some of the business of the House, especially when the deputies are members of this House. I think that laying a paper per se is not something which we should insist that the minister must be personally present. We may be setting a precedent which will be difficult to follow, and in some circles, the House in the performance of this business. So I suggest that, notwithstanding the objection of the Minority Chief Whip, Mr. Speaker will allow the deputy to lay the paper on behalf of the minister. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Minority Chief Whip, you heard the First Deputy Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, what the First Deputy Speaker is saying is supposed to be on rare occasion. And there is need for urgency for that business to be carried on whilst all of us are aware of the inability of the minister to carry that business. Mr. Speaker, secondly, I want to draw his attention. When ministers are not available, the presidency do not allow the deputies to act. They ask other ministers to act instead. There's a reason. Because, Mr. Speaker, when you lay a paper in this House, you are committing that ministry. And we are not told that the minister is incapable of doing this. And I'm saying that, Mr. Speaker, today, if you look at the other paper for today, the minister has businesses that he needed to be here. 2, the minister is a member of parliament who is supposed to be here by 2 o'clock, as we've all agreed. Mr. Speaker, this business of others thinking that they can engage themselves doing other things and say that their deputies should come to attend to us is what we are saying that it should not be encouraged unless there is real need for it. And Mr. Speaker, because the minister is supposed to answer several questions on the other paper and other paper addendum, Mr. Speaker, with the greatest of respect, we feel this paper should be left for the minister to come and lay it himself. We have so many other businesses. If our colleagues opposite, who are driving government business, will think that they want to waste all the time doing this. Mr. Speaker, we have up to 4 o'clock or probably 6 o'clock to leave here. Meanwhile, they have so much business. They should allow the business of the house to continue so that when the minister comes, he lays it. So we don't labor over something that we can get over and get other business running. We believe that it is not right when the minister is supposed to come to the house for his deputy to be laying the paper. It's not right.
Well, I don't think we should stretch this thing further. Sometimes you make these applications when they are not necessary. I can even see the Minister for Youth and Sports still present. So there was nothing urgent about his laying of the paper. He is still with us. We could have done other things before we go there. But usually the practice is that after the application is made, you have to ask the other side. And when the other side feels strongly against, in spite of all pleadings, to keep the House together so that we can move in unison, I think we usually don't grant the leave. And so I think that we will not grant the leave for the Deputy Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development to lay the report. Honourable Member, move on to the other items. I'm sure the minister will be in, but you know, it's the ministers who decide the assistance they want from their deputies. And so if a minister decides that I want my deputy to represent me on the floor of Parliament and to present papers, it's within the authority for the minister to so do or to do so. But it's for the House to either accept or reject that. But the convention is that we usually allow, particularly when the deputy minister is a member of Parliament, for good reason, because they would have been very knowledgeable practice and procedure of the House. Those that are non-members, we try to encourage them to be present to learn so that they don't stay at the ministries, lose the next election, and just pass through without any impact. That's why we try to encourage them to be present, so that even when you lose the next election, at least your name and contributions appear in the Hansard, official report of Parliament. You know, there are so many deputies who have passed through without even ever being known to have been deputy ministers of state. So it's in their own interest to always show up. With this, we go back to the order paper and we go to item 5. We start with urgent question. There is an urgent question standing in the name of Dr. Zaneto Adjuman Rawlings, the Member of Parliament for Klote Korle, one of the most important suburbs of the city of Accra. I know it goes beyond Osu. Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I rise to ask a question to the Minister for Works and Housing when the dredging of the Odo drain will be done in preparation for the rainy season.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Works and Housing is mindful that the Odo drainage basin is arguably the most important catchment in the country as far as the threat of flooding is concerned. And I'm pleased to state that the government of President Nana Akufo-Addo is absolutely continuing and intensifying the efforts to find lasting solutions to the perennial flooding challenges in the basin. In the pursuit of that objective, government is currently collaborating with the World Bank to invest more than $200 million to implement the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project, that's the GARID project, which will mitigate flood risks and address solid waste management challenges in the Odo drainage basin. The project will, among others, involve the third and maintenance dredging of the East major tributaries, as well as the Kole Lagoon, to maintain drainage hydraulic capacity of the basin. The construction of detention ponds to hold large volumes of water that would otherwise have flowed down to the Kwame Nkrumah Circle area to cause flooding. And 3, removing obstructions to flow of storm water. Mr. Speaker, my ministry is conscious that the above-mentioned measures will not have an impact on flood risk in the current rainy season. For that reason, Mr. Speaker, while efforts are underway to procure a contractor for the deferred and maintenance dredging activities under the GARID project, Dredge Masters has been engaged to continue with ongoing dredging activities to make room for storm water and mitigate flood risks in the Odo basin this season. Dredging activities are focused on 1, the line section from Kaprais to Abusokai Bridge, the online section of Abusokai Bridge to the interceptor weir at the Kole Lagoon, the South Kaneshi drain from Ring Road at Obechebi-Lamte interchange to the interceptor weir at the Kole Lagoon, the Agobloshi drain to the interceptor weir at the Kole Lagoon. It is worth highlighting that the Kole Lagoon was dredged extensively this year, thereby creating room for storage of storm water. Additionally, the timing of the ongoing dredging is such that there will be a seamless transition to the new GARID contract to avoid periods of redundancy where the communities in the constituency will be exposed to increased flooding hazard. Mr. Speaker, through the National Flood Control Program, the Kole Lagoon was dredged last year to increase its holding capacity. Also, the contractor for Odona Garage's area drain, Phase 2 West, is on site, and work is progressing as planned. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, contract for the construction of the Castle Drain has been awarded, and it is expected that the contractor will mobilize and start the work soon. Collectively, these measures will go a long way to mitigate the risk of flooding in the Odo drainage basin in this rainy season and beyond. While the government is making every effort to ensure flood risk is minimized, it is important that the citizens see their protection from flood risk as a surety. I would therefore like to take this opportunity to invite citizens to complement the efforts of government and desist from depositing solid waste in the drains in order to maintain drainage capacity and reduce the storm water overflow and flooding. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I wish to assure the honourable member and this August House that my ministry will intensify efforts to enhance the resilience of our communities, and this House will be updated of our progress. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, any supplementary question? Any supplementary questions?
Yes, Right Honourable Speaker.
Yes, please, you may go on.
Thank you. Right Honourable Speaker, I'd like to inquire from the Minister whether he's aware that his predecessor did promise that the work would be started with the Garrett project last year in October 2020. And mine is currently. Sorry. I would like to inquire from the Minister whether he's aware that the ministry, his predecessor, committed to starting the project in October 2020. And since he has just mentioned that the project will not start, can he give us a timeline with regards to when the project will begin?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the project was faced with some challenges, and that is why they were not able to meet that deadline. And since I've been the minister, I've been working very hard to make sure that the project is started in earnest. And I want to assure the honourable member that currently procurement processes are going on to procure the consultants and contractors. I'm very hopeful that by December we should be able to start the project on ground. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, since you are still young in the House, we have Government Assurances Committee here. You have already made a number of assurances, and so they are taking note of the assurances. If you fail to fulfill them, you'll be dragged before the House. Are you still going to assure?
Very well noted, Mr. Speaker.
Are you still continuing to assure us?
Mr. Speaker, I'm hoping that by the
you are hoping
December, yes.
Yes, Honourable Member. Now the Minister is hoping. So please, now your supplementary questions should focus on that.
Right, Honourable Speaker. I'm not sure how to translate the hope to my constituents when the flooding begins. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask a supplementary question, and that is with regards to the dredging. The Minister mentioned that the Odor was drained extensively this year. But on a recent visit, we observed that the Odor was actually quite silted up. What mechanisms are in place to ensure that the contractor that has been given this job is actually doing it properly to ensure that the object of the dredging is achieved?
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have a monitoring and evaluation arrangement that makes sure that the contractor is monitored at all times. And the last time that I was there, even though I experienced that there were some dredge that had happened because it had rained and it has brought a lot of debris from upstream. But as I'm speaking, every part of the channel is still being dredged. And when it rained in Accra last week, we saw the result. That is why it didn't result in flooding in that basin. Thank you very much.
This is an urgent question. This is an urgent question. Yes, Honorable Kwame Abuja.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. May I ask the Minister how he's going to fund this work, knowing very well that on page 281 of the 2021 budget, all you have in the budget for capital investment is 56 million. How do you intend to fund this particular intervention that my colleague asked the question about? my question is this, that you only have 56 million capital expenditure in the 2021 budget on page 218. Which source of funding are you allocating to this solution you are proposing in relation to my colleague's question?
Yes, Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware of the inadequacy of our budget line for this budget year. My ministry is currently actively engaging the finance minister to correct this anomaly. Thank you very much.
Honorable Ablakwa.
Most grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, in the response, the Honourable Minister, he refers to the $200 million Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project, which is financed by the World Bank. I recall that in the 7th Parliament, government came to this House and said that they were going to realign the $200 million to respond to COVID. So you don't have that money. That money is not available to you. This House supported the realignment of that $200 million. Has that $200 million been released to you now? If not, then you are really misleading the House, because that $200 million is not available to you. Do you have the $200 million? For this House realign that $200 million to fight COVID. So you don't have the money. You don't have it.
Honorable Minister, just a minute. I just wonder, because you ended up saying that you don't have the money. It's not like a question, but you are just...
Mr. Speaker, my question is the Honourable Minister not misleading this House when this House, during the COVID response, realigned the $200 million from the World Bank to fight COVID? So has that money been released to you by the Minister for Finance, the $200 million?
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, supplementary question. The question you are asking is not a supplementary question. It is not a supplementary question. Then ask it well, because Mr. Speaker has given you the opportunity to ask the main question. It must flow from the main answer given. It's and you had two opportunities. You were doing long narration. Mr. Speaker, my colleague should take the rules book and check what Order 67 says. If you want to file your question, file it. Mr. Speaker, this is not a supplementary question.
Well, I was considering the question on the Order 67(1)B. Order 67(1)B, which says questions must comply with the following conditions. A question shall not contain any arguments, expression of opinion, inferences, imputations, epithets, or controversial, ironic, or offensive expressions or hypothetical cases. So I was considering it under arguments. And then when you go to 671J, it says a supplementary question shall be subject to the same rules of order as an original question. So I was considering whether it was being argumentative before he rose. That's why I wanted a simple, straight, supplementary question on that. I don't argue as to whether it was withdrawn, is this and that. Straightforward.
Most right Honourable Speaker, I shall follow your guidance. Mr. Speaker, my supplementary question, the Honourable Minister, in responding to the Honourable Zaneto Ajima-Rawlings' question, said that the World Bank-sponsored Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Project, which is estimated to cost $200 million, to finance the Odo Basin Drain Project. And I am asking the Minister, in the 7th Parliament, that funding was realigned to fight COVID. Has the Finance Ministry now released the funds to you? Because we know the records in this House show that the money was realigned as part of our COVID response. So it's not available. So it's a statement of fact, not arguing. I'm not arguing. So the $200 million, has the Ministry of Finance now released it to you, following the realignment which took place in the 7th Parliament during the COVID response?
Yes, Deputy Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I think you read Order 67 1D in extenso. Mr. Speaker, clearly, I am not gagging him, but I think that, Mr. Speaker, he should go straight forward and ask his question. Mr. Speaker, he has not asked his question that he knows.
Honorable Minister, are you aware that that money has been realigned and is not available for the use of your ministry for that project?
Mr. Speaker, I am aware, and I'm also aware that it hasn't been released, but we are currently in discussions with the Ministry of Finance and the World Bank to address that funding gap.
Honorable Member of Parliament for Clote Koli. The Minister says they are still in discussion with the Minister for Finance and the World Bank for the release of that facility. So that is where we have reached now. Yes, Honorable Dafiemako. That should be the last, because this one, it was urgent question.
Very well, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the Minister is informing Parliament that even though he's aware that the originally procured $200 million had been realigned under COVID relief package, in 2021, in June, 29 June 2021, when 7 persons have perished, and the floods perhaps may even restart this evening, it says that they are now in negotiation, in discussion. The question is, how long will the discussion last, and when will the money come?
Honourable Member, this is not a supplementary question, so I disallow it. When you go through the rules, you will see. Yes, honourable members, we'll move on to the next question, and the second Deputy Speaker to take the chair. Second Deputy Speaker to take the chair. Item 7, questions. Number 107. Standing in the name of Mr. Kobina Mensah Woyomi, the Member of Parliament for South Tong. Honourable Member, you may ask your question now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Works and Housing the steps the ministry is taking to plan, design, and construct drainage in Suakope, Dabala, Sope, and Tefle townships to prevent the perennial flooding that destroy properties around millions of cities anytime it rains heavily.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Works and Housing has taken note of increasing risk of flooding across the country. Several places that were not previously prone to flooding are now experiencing flooding. Among the factors that have accounted for this situation are climate change, uncontrolled development, and poor household waste management practices. The ministry, through the Hydrological Services Department, collates data on flooding incidents across the country, and the data is used in prioritizing drainage basins and implementing flood mitigation projects in view of the significant budget constraints. Over the past 4 years, the government of President Nana Akufo-Addo has invested more than 450 million Ghana cedis in the control program, and that has helped reduce flood risk across the country. In spite of this significant investment, my ministry is aware that there are several areas across the country that need intervention to mitigate flood risk and protect lives, livelihoods, and property. To that end, my ministry has tasked the Hydrological Service Department to undertake an investigations of the causes of flooding, carry out surveys and designs, including cost estimates for the construction of Sugakope, Dabala, Stokpe, Tefle Township drainage systems. This will be included in our next list of projects to be implemented, subject to availability of funds.
Honourable Member, Minister, just a minute. Honourable members, we have over 50 states admitted. And so if you have the patience today, my second deputy speaker, after the questions, will take 7 of those statements. But there will be time limits enforced by him. So with this, second deputy speaker to take the chair. Minister, you may continue.
Mr. Speaker, my ministry has initiated the processes for the implementation of the 2021-2022 National Flood Control Program across the 16 regions of the country, aimed at enhancing our flood resilience. The ministry is expecting to receive the necessary financial approvals soon after the implementation process to commence. Mr. Speaker, I would like to reiterate my call on all citizens to exercise circumspection in the disposal of household solid waste in order for government investment in additional drainage capacity to be effective. A concerted effort needs to be made not to fill the drains with solid waste. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to assure the honourable member for Southton and this August House that my ministry will intensify efforts to enhance the resilience of our communities to the flooding, and this House will be updated of our progress. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable member, any supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the answer provided by the Minister, he indicated in paragraph 3, the last sentence, that all that he indicated to get done, he hopes to, he says, and I quote, they will be included in our list of projects for 2021 program. Do I take that to be a project that is likely to start
this year so that at least the suffering, the long suffering of the people of these areas, to an extent, will begin to see some light, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister. Here. Mr. Questioner, can you repeat?
Yeah, I'm saying that in your answer, you indicated that all these that you have outlined, being what you want to be undertaking, are going to be added to the list of programs this 2021. Do I take it that this 2021 is the year that they will bring some or see some light, that all this suffering and allegations that they've been into all these years are likely to see an end?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I meant that those projects have been captured under our 2021-2022 National Flood Control Program, subject to availability of funds. Yes,
Yes, Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, the answer provided, and I'm sure before you may also have a look at, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, you will notice that what the Minister indicated, that subject to availability of fund and all that, we do not have that here. However, Mr. Speaker, let me ask the Minister, he indicated all these programs. Can he give a timeline when these are likely to take place? I mean, the design, the construction, the survey, and all that, so that at least the good people of Southtown can begin to see that, yes, something hopefully will be done about their situation and plight.
Honorable Minister, any timelines?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not in the position to provide timelines because we don't have the funds now. But once we receive the funds, we'll be able to come back to you and give the timelines for the project and implementation. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member for Adaku.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. May I ask the Minister, who himself is a planner, whether he's got a strategy, a nationwide strategy to deal with this flooding? I know flooding happens in many of our cities, Kumasi, Accra, now he's talking about Sogakope. Does the ministry have a nationwide strategy to deal with this level of flooding in our country, because it's becoming something that we should expect? This is relevant.
Minister, my brother, you know, okay, Lord.
Speaker,
I believe you've understood that.
No, Mr. Speaker, I'm asking if his ministry have got a nationwide strategy, because he's singling out towns by themselves, and flooding wouldn't tell us when it's the next place. So I'm asking whether you have a nationwide strategy to deal with flooding. That's all I'm asking, sir.
Minister, are you minded to give us any strategic plans of the ministry?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, we have a nationwide. It is embedded in the National Flood Control Program, and we are constructing new, as part of the program, we are constructing new drains, we are expanding existing ones, and we are collaborating with the local government ministry to make sure that structures that are built on waterways are demolished, and working with the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources to also make sure that people don't continue to dump solid waste in our drainage channels. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member for.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable from Chifuetimokwa, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. I just want to ask the Minister if it is not about time to change the style of building drain in our country. When drains are open, he was appealing to Ghanaians to have the ministry not to dump garbage and stuff like that into drain. And so won't it be better to build drains that are covered? Now, I mean, in order to kind of help in managing the flood and all that, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, covering drains has its own advantages and disadvantages. The ideal situation is to have cover. That's what they call subterranean drains. But Mr. Speaker, with the current situation we have in our country, where people continue to dump solid waste into our drainage channels, it will be very difficult for us to continue to have subterranean drains. Last week in Kumasi, the KJTR market got flooded because of the underground drainage system that is subterranean, that is closed. But because some timber logs had found its way beneath the market, it blocked the flow of storm water, and the water was forced to come out as storm water overflow to flood the whole market. So it has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. That is why we are working actively of sanitation and water resources to educate Ghanaians on the need to desist from dumping solid waste into our drainage channels. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable member for
Awutu Senya West.
Come again.
Awutu Senya West.
Awutu Senya West, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, day in, day out, our colleagues, ministers, members of parliament who are ministers are called to this house to come and answer questions on infrastructure issues, which are capital expenditure issues and heavy monies. If the minister is not able to give a timeline, then the person who is funding it should kindly be called here to come and give the timeline, because everything has to be paid for. He can't sit here and give us hope, because we have to give our constituents more than hope. The work has to get done. How is it going to get done? It has to be paid for. Who's going to pay for it? Finance Minister should please come and tell us how it's going to be paid for. Otherwise, he will come and we'll take the records. And in 2 months' time, you can call him back. He will come with the same briefing that he's been given, because he doesn't have the money to pay. I will plead that the Finance Minister is also called in conjunction with anybody who has come to discuss anything to do with the CAPEX, so that we have a clear picture and we can practice proper project management principles even in this house. Thank you.
I get a question. So, Honourable Minister, we thank you for attending upon the House to answer questions. We are so grateful. Honourable members, we will jump to question number 49. That stands in the name of a member for Akachi North, Mr. Peter Nochikote. Honourable Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development, if you can please take your seat. Yes, honourable member, you may now ask the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development what steps the National Coordinating Councils are taking to ensure that representatives of the metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies to the regional lands commissions are nominated legally as stipulated in Section 9 of the Lands Commission Act 2008, Act 767. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, Sections 9B 2 of the Lands Commission Act 2008, Act 767, membership of a regional lands commission states that a regional lands commission shall consist of persons appointed by the minister responsible for lands. A. The chairman, who shall not be a minister or a deputy minister. B. one representative of and nominated by 1, the regional House of Chiefs, 2, each district assembly within the region, and 3, the department responsible for town and country planning. C, 1 nominee of the Ghana Bar Association practicing in the region. D, 1 nominee of the Ghana Institution of Surveyors practicing in the region. E, the nominee of National Association of Farmers and Fishermen in the region. And F, the regional lands officer. In this regard, Right Honourable Speaker, the question may be referred to the Honourable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Yes, Honourable Member, any supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I asked this question because I asked a similar question on the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. And the answer was that the selection or nomination from this assembly was the responsibility of the district assembly. The district assembly falls under the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development. So I am surprised the minister is saying that this question may be referred to the Ministry for Lands and Natural Resources. In any case, Mr. Speaker, when this House wants to send people or members to ECOWAS Parliament or an African Parliament, nominations are made and approved by this House. So the district assembly has the responsibility to nominate and approve members to boards and regional lands commission. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to minister why, if you look at paragraph 2b, each district assembly within the region is the Ministry of Local Government now delegating this function to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Mr. Speaker, I would like to know from the minister. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Right, Honourable Speaker. Yes, as read, this act, it is true that the assemblies will have to send representatives to the regional body. But the point here being made here is that the whole exercise is under the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Because if the case being made by the honourable member is that Regional House of Chiefs have sent their nominees, Bar Association have sent their nominees, Institution of Surveyors have sent their nominees, Farmers and Fishermen have sent their nominees, and the only thing holding the composition is the assembly, then it will be a point. But if that is not the case, then the whole composition is under the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Mr. Speaker, once the minister has stated, or his assertion is that it's not the responsibility of the Ministry of Local Government, Mr. Speaker, I will have no further questions to ask. I will take it up at another level. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Member for Southern.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the composition and the subsequent swearing of the members of some of these statutory bodies can be carried out pending the nominees from the respective assemblies. Their swearing can be done later. So some of these boards can begin to function. So the question is that, would the minister consider doing that?
Honourable Member, I wouldn't allow the question. It's already answered. Yes, let me at this juncture invite Honourable Member for Bium, Honourable Idie Kofi Adams, to ask his question to the Minister. Yes, Honorable
Thank you
Member.
very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development whether the Jasikan district has been elevated to municipal status, and if not, whether government has any plans to elevate it to a municipal status. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Jasikan district has not yet been elevated to a municipality. As per a letter of 21st October 2020, submitted a draft executive instrument for the upgrade of Jasikan district to a municipality to the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice for their review. Jasikan district was created by the local government Jasikan District Assembly Establishment Instrument 2020, laid before Parliament on 6 October 2020, which came into force on 9 November 2020. The Ministry received the final EI from the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice on 9 November 2020 for onward submission to His Excellency the President for his signature. The President has signed the executive instrument for the elevation of Jasikan district into a municipality. The processes for the elevation of the district to a municipality has commenced, and Parliament notified in due course of further progress in this regard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, is the Minister, the Honorable Minister, minded, as you would say, to tell this House the date His Excellency the President signed this EI he is referring to? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Speaker, that can be made available to the Minister, to the Honorable Minister very soon, maybe next day or two. But that has been signed, and we are going through the processes, and I'm sure very soon it will be brought before Parliament, and then status as a municipality will be confirmed. I'm very certain of that, and that will happen very soon. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, we've heard this very soon, very soon, very soon. I want to know how soon is the soon, because the ministers, regional minister for Uti, in briefing the select committee of the local government of this house, told them that Jasikan district is now a municipal. Just as a result of this, I want to find out from the minister, how soon is the soon, and what is holding back the completion of this process and the announcement? Thank you.
Honorable Minister, how soon is the soon?
Mr. Speaker, the most what the Honorable Minister wants to know is that his constituents in Jasikan have always wanted to be elevated to the status of a municipality. His Excellency the President, Dr. Akufo-Addo, has signed and has agreed to give his people what they have always requested for, and they never receive it. The most important thing is that in the next few weeks, Mr. Honorable Speaker, I'm saying weeks, this House, and a date will be fixed in which I'll go with the Honorable Member to perform the inauguration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Deputy Minority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Idi Kofi Adams is interested in assisting the Honorable Minister to elevate Jessica to a municipality. Since the Minister has answered that the President has finally signed, and we have a convention and a practice in this House, whereby legislative instruments or constitutional instruments that are about to be laid formally in the House are unofficially subjected to the perusal of honorable members, especially the Committee on Subsidiary Legislation. Will the honorable minister consider making this legislative instrument available to the honorable member for Bui, Jessica, to make, if there are some corrections and also input to be made, like we've been doing, to do C? Would you consider doing that?
So it's not a question.
The Speaker, it's not opinion, it's a question. We'll consider. The Speaker, I was here in the 5th Parliament when even creating ministries and districts, we have to be going back and forth in correct things.
So make it a question. That
is why I'm asking, will he consider making it available to the honorable member for Jessica and input or confirmation?
Anyway, Mr. Minister, if you are minded.
Right, Honorable Speaker. Just as the people from Jessica in the Uti region wanted to have a region unto themselves, and they started fighting for it in 1954, and they never got it till the time of President Nana Akufo-Addo. They have confidence in the fact that when he says he will elevate Jessica into a municipality, it will happen. And that's the comforting thing, that the people have confidence, because a whole region has been created after so many years of demand. Right, Honorable Speaker, I can lay this paper here that on the 19th of May 2021, the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, wrote to my office in reference to a correspondence we have sent to his office 27th April 2021. And he said, please find attached for your consideration the draft local government Jessica Assembly Establishment Instrument 2021. Please provide us with any comment that you may have on the instrument to enable us finalize work on the instrument. Please, the process have started, and to answer the leader, I will certainly consult the Member of Parliament for that privilege of having a prior copy to finalize it. But the important thing is that once we created a region for him, when we say we do this party, he should be confident that we'll do it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. We now shift to question number 51, which stands in the same person, Honorable Idi Kofi Adams. Kofi, you can now ask the question.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Local Government and Decentralization and Rural Development when the Kwan district will be officially inaugurated. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you. The creation of one district commenced with the laying of the local government One District Assembly Establishment Instrument 2020 in Parliament on 6th of October 2020, which came into force on 9th of November 2020. The process for the inauguration as a district will be completed following consultations with stakeholders for the appointment of members to the Assembly and the nomination of a district chief executive for approval by the Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member, any supplementary question?
Yes, Right Honorable Speaker. The Minister in his answer mentioned consultation with stakeholders. The stakeholders that we know are the people of the 4 traditional areas, the chiefs and the other opinion leaders, who have been very worried about delays in inaugurating the Guan district, which has become legal since November of 2020. The Assembly members, Mr. Speaker, have not been sworn in to date. My question is, which stakeholders is the ministry consulting for which from 2020 November till now, they have not concluded the process of the consultation to enable them inaugurate the district?
Yes, Honorable Member, are you minded to answer?
Right, Honorable Speaker. Yes, it is true. It came to force 9th November. Right, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Member is very much aware that the Guan district area, and for matter the constituency, they have 13 electoral areas. But the LI, the principal office of the Assembly, shall be located at where meetings of the Assembly shall be held. Right, Honorable Speaker, this is an area which was very much involved in the creation of the OT region when it was carved out of Hohoi municipality, and which has generated a lot of debate. It's important to make sure that we have a very smooth inauguration. I've been in touch with the chiefs and opinion leaders in the area within the Guan district, and I'm very confident that in the not too distant future we shall come to an agreement and the district will be inaugurated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Kofi, I guess that's your last question, eh?
Right, Honorable Speaker, depending on the answer from the Minister, this may be my last. Honorable Speaker, I want to ask the Minister that following the creation of this district since November 9, 2020, it's been so legally established. But in terms of support services, they are not getting it from any of the adjoining districts, whether Jasikan or Hokwe, which is in another region. What further arrangement will the minister put in place whilst we are doing the consultation to make sure that the electoral area, the Guan district, get the services that they need as Ghanaians?
Yes, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as is well known by practice, any area that will fall within the jurisdiction of a region, even if they don't have a certain district chief executive, a for the matter presiding member, the regional coordinating council will take care of that area until the substantive officers are in place. And I want to assure the honorable member that I very much understand his concern, but he will also bear with me that this is an area that has been an area where I don't want to introduce new topic, but during the last election, it looks as if EC took some decisions that have been a subject of debate. The 4 traditional areas Santo Kofi, Apafo, Lipe, and Lolobi. We have been meeting them and discussing the status of that area. There are many who never believe that they will even get their district. And as the minister, the honorable member confirmed, by law, it has been done as part of the fulfillment of the promise made to them. The only thing now left is with the inauguration. And there are some sense we are discussing with the stakeholders, and I'm very confident, based on my last interaction with them, and we should bear in mind that yes, it came to force in November. I took office in March, and therefore I've had fresh discussions with them. And from what I gather from the discussions, this one is also, in a matter of weeks, it will be concluded, and one district assembly will be duly inaugurated to confirm the fact that when this government will make promises, we deliver. Thank you very much.
Yes, Kofi, the last supplementary question.
Thank you, Speaker. It's not really even a question per se, but just to let the minister know that the
Honorable member,
delay,
if it is not a question, then
the continuous delay is affecting the peaceful coexistence of the four traditional area rather. And so whatever arrangement, whatever discussions that they are having, they must pay particular attention to it and spend to deal with it almost immediately, because they cannot delay further. And so I want an assurance, just as he gave, how soon is soon, and whether he is minded to involve me as a caretaker MP for that area.
Anyway, Honorable Minister, he still wants how soon?
Honorable Speaker, yes, I'm not so sure of the title caretaker MP, but the honorable member understands that this is an area that some people really believe that even his status as the MP should be challenged, because there are people who he is, to use his own word, he's a caretaker, but yet they didn't take part in the voting process. They didn't take part in the voting process. But Mr. Speaker, I'm saying this to let members appreciate the sensitivity involved in this. And it's important that it is appreciated. So when we say that there are deepening of consultations, to deepening consultations, so that when the negotiation takes place, they will have peaceful coexistence. It is important because it is a known fact. It's a known fact that as honorable member describes himself as a caretaker member of parliament, yes, he could be, but I'm using the words he used. He could be, but he could be a caretaker member of parliament for an area those people did not cast their ballot for him. And so it's a sensitive area, and we have to tackle it the way we are going. I think that will help us in having a peaceful coexistence between the people and the neighboring Buem constituency, where he is officially the member of parliament.
Yes, Honorable Deputy.
Thank you. As leaders, we must help the chair to preside over the House. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister made a statement which nearly raised controversies behind me. And I think,
please keep it light.
With difference to the chair, Mr. Speaker, that portion must be expunged from the answer. Because interpretation of the rules in this House lies in your bosom. Interpretation of the law lies in the Supreme Court. For a minister to come and challenge the status of a member of parliament, I think, Mr. Speaker, should not be allowed to stay in our records. That portion must be expunged, Mr. Speaker, with due respect to the chair.
Well noted. Minister, do you...
Right, Honorable Speaker, I'm at a loss. I don't think anybody in this house has ever called himself a caretaker MP. Nobody in this house has called himself a caretaker MP. It is the member of parliament who described himself as a caretaker MP. I didn't use those words. I didn't use those caretaker. He used those
Honorable
words.
members, please.
And so I was making reference to
so
you.
you can't stand. So just...
And it's important that we are dealing with an area which has a lot of sensitivity. And so I stick to my earlier statement.
Hold on, please. Honorable member, what do you want to say?
It's on a point of order that the Honorable Minister is actually quoting me out of context. I'm a member of Parliament for Buem constituency. I said I am a caretaker MP for Guam. It doesn't mean that I'm saying they are part of Buem. I am a member of Parliament for Buem constituency, which does not include the Guam district. I am saying I'm a caretaker MP because I listened to them. The last time the statistical service people were here, I was interested in...
Honorable member, who made you a caretaker MP there?
Oh, I made myself. That's what I'm saying.
You made yourself?
Yes. Mr. Speaker, because they have issues and government is not paying any proper attention to the issues that they have. So somebody must be interested in what affects them, and I have volunteered to do that. It is as a result of that that I have asked a question that affects them. I have asked a question that affects my district and Buem constituency. And I have asked a question that affects the Guam district, because I am interested in what happens there. I pass through that area to my constituency. And so it is upon that that I said caretaker, because I am not your MP.
Kofi, you elected yourself to be a caretaker member of Parliament. The minister was also making reference to what you said. I mean, let's take things lightly, and I don't think that we need to...
Mr. Speaker, the minister was not referring to my...
Kofi, let's take things lightly. I don't think the minister is demeaning your status as a... Well, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I think before the minister was on his feet, you directed that portion be expunged from the records. And Mr. Speaker, I'm insisting because what the Honorable Member said was that he is the only MP out of the 275 MPs in this chamber who is MP for 2 districts. That is what he was referring to. He was not saying that his status as MP should be challenged.
Honorable Member, the question that brought the minister to this house is not in respect of that particular 2 districts. So if the minister or the member is minded, let's file a separate question to bring the minister to those particular areas. So I wouldn't allow anything that would degenerate into another area of controversy. Honorable Akachinov, may ask.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the minister in his answer said that the LI establishing the Guam District Assembly was laid on 6 October 2020 and came into effect on 9 2020. I would like to find out from the minister if by this enactment the Guam District Assembly qualified to benefit from the 4th quarter of the GAC, that District Assembly's Common Fund. Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Right, Mr. Speaker, to the best of my knowledge, the Guam Assembly had not been inaugurated. by the end of last year for the fourth quarter. To the best of my knowledge, they will not qualify. And that when it's inaugurated, then they will qualify as a common fund for this year. That is my understanding.
I take the last question, last supplementary question, and I should qualify it. It's a supplementary question. So this is the last supplementary question I take from Honorable Member for
Bongo. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Minister's response to the availability of services for the people of the Guan constituency, district. He indicated that the Regional Coordinating Council will step in for such services. My question is this. Every Ghanaian is entitled to enjoy the DACF, the District Assembly's Common Fund. We also do know the District Assembly's Common Fund is not also voted to the Regional Coordinating Council. As Ghanaians, how is the ministry going to ensure that this district that is yet to be inaugurated, because there's still consultation going on, enjoy this, which is supposed to be part of their rights as Ghanaians?
Honourable Member, I think that the question has been asked in a different way and has been answered. Yes, that's my understanding. In the absence, of course, I have already said that was going to be the last. Honourable Minister, we will thank you for attending upon the House to answer some questions. We are grateful to you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, we will move to, anyway, let me take directions from leadership.
Speaker, with your leave, if we may go back to public business and take item 8C. And I've agreed with my colleague on the other side already.
B. Okay. Very well. So, item number AC on page 4 by the Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development.
Annual statement by the Audit Committee of the Bodi District Assembly for the year 2019.
Honourable members, the report has been duly presented. It is for distribution to honourable members.
Speaker, with your kindness, if you may indulge me, we'll take as the last item for public business 8H on page 6. Speaker.
Yes. Honourable Deputy Minority Chief Whip.
Mr. Speaker, I just didn't hear the reference you made about the local government document that has been made.
The previous one.
Mr. Speaker, I mean,
it was supposed to be, the reference was supposed to be made to the Committee on Local Government and Rural Development. So that amendment should be made, please. Yes.
Item
page 6.
Speaker, I had sought your leave for item number 8H on page 6 to be laid.
Okay, very well. By the chairman of the committee.
Report of the Committee on Trade, Industry and Tourism on the interim trade partnership agreement of the Republic of Ghana of the one part and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland of the other part.
Honorable members, the committee has already presented. It is for distribution to honorable members.
Speaker, if we may go back to item 5, I think we left out question number 46, and the minister is already in the house, so that we can take item 46 under questions.
But is honorable member Oyumi around? Okay. So, honorable minister for chieftaincy, you may take your seat. Yes, honorable member for South Tongue, please take the floor and ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs what steps the ministry is taking to engage the country to embrace tolerance and enshrined in Ghana's constitution with a view to building a peaceful and harmonious society that exists. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honorable minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank you for your indulgence last week and that of my colleague when you agreed to reschedule my question to today. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs is very much focused on creating the environment for peaceful and harmonious coexistence of all people with diverse religious faiths. The Constitution of Ghana in Article 21(1)(c) provides as follows. Quote, all persons shall have the right, freedom to practice, to profess any religion and manifest such practice. Mr. Speaker, traditional authorities and religious bodies are very much critical in the shaping and the inculcation of the positive values that make us see that we are indeed one people with one common destiny. And it is indeed the very reason that gives us our Ghanaianness, making us very unique. Mr. Speaker, whilst we know that there are occasional doubts on some issues, generally we know that the essential element to hold us together as a people who are at liberty and have the environment to self-expression is to have and sustain peace at all material times. Mr. Speaker, tolerance, coexistence, reinforced with a desire to develop individually and collectively, and a focused delivery of the elements of the tenets of our collective values are what inform our programs and activities. And in this connection, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry has engaged with the religious and traditional authorities and would continue with these engagements. Certainly, it is in this connection that we are able to stress the need to uphold our values. The religious bodies and traditional authorities are in constant touch with us, and each one of us is equally linked with them. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry is in the process of facilitating interfaith dialogue, and at this forum, the issues that are topical and likely to breed disaffection will be tackled. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we constantly engage with faith-based organizations to deepen understanding, tolerance, and cohesion, and which are very important in upholding values. This program my ministry shall pursue. Mr. Speaker, the ministry will facilitate the environment for peace, tolerance, cohesion, friendliness, and respect. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker,
May I commend the Minister for the answer, but let me ask some medical questions. In carrying out the various engagements you have outlined with both religious and traditional bodies, do you have any intention to involve some state agencies, including NCC and GES, in that expected outcome, in terms of engaging to deepen understanding, to embrace what the content of the Constitution, etc.? You alone might not be able to foster that. Do you intend involving those agencies so that you can be able to achieve your intended outcome?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there are other important stakeholders who would have to. One of them is the NCC that he's mentioned, the Peace Council, and all other relevant organizations will be contacted. I thank you.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, will you also involve, may I ask the Minister to probably also consider in deepening the education? You realize that if you are not careful, you just may be interested in holding seminars and programs targeted at just the top, maybe not necessarily considering the various constituencies. Do you or would want to extend programs to constituencies involving the various interest groups like the assembly members as well as chiefs and people and all that, so that at least we can have everybody getting to understand and appreciate this, so that we can be able to achieve the intended, outcome for the country? Would you want to do that?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
The event that we are talking about is not a one-day event, and it's a national event. So all persons in this country whose efforts or whose inputs would conduce to the resolution or building cohesion in this country will be contacted. I thank you.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, too. Yes, in the absence of any further question, Honorable Minister, we thank you very much for attending upon the House to respond to questions from the member. So, Minister, we are grateful and you are discharged.
Speaker, we had earlier agreed on taking some statement before we went into public business. So, if you may, I think we can now take the statement.
Yes.
With your leave, Speaker.
Yes. The Right Honorable Speaker has admitted 7 different statements. 7. So we need to manage ourselves, the time allotted to be able to go through them. I will start with the one from a member from Salaga South constituency. Is he around? Honorable Zuwira Mohammed Ibrahima. Is he around? Okay. And the statement is on the life to commemorate the death of the last of the Mohicans, His Excellency Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia, who died on the 28th, whose life started from 1920 to 2021. Honorable member, you may, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I tried catching your eye much earlier. Mr. Speaker, our colleague from Idra, because of the challenge, we are in 3 meetings. I agree with the Speaker that we will take his first so that he could catch the flight to Idra because of the difficulty. And that one, it was going to be only 1-1 contribution after he makes the statement. So if you've been minded to vary to take that first. Thank you.
Anyway, the statement is here, but it has not been commented on by the right honorable speaker. So I really don't know.
Speaker, indeed we had agreed a concrete that that particular statement should be taken, and it was admitted by the speaker himself, the one related to Setre, I think Setre Dumase, following the loss of lives and the security concerns in the district. So I want to support my colleague and urge him to keep supporting us for us to work together as a team, as we have always done.
Very well. So a statement on the murder of Ibrahim Mohammed and the indiscriminate shooting and killing of innocent citizens in the Ejura-Seche-Dumasi municipality by Alhaji Mohammed Bawa Brahma, MP, Ejura-Seche-Dumasi. Honourable member, you may take the floor and make your statement.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for allowing me to make this very important statement. Mr. Speaker, it is with deep sorrow and regret that I make this statement on the floor of this august House. As I make this statement, there is turmoil in my beloved constituency, the Ejura-Seche-Dumasi constituency, as armed police and military men have shot into a crowd of innocent and armed civilians who were returning from the burial of one Ibrahim Mohammed, alias Kaka Macho, who died on Monday, 28 June, which is yesterday, 2021. The late Ibrahim Mohammed, alias Kaka, was a member of the Face the Country movement. As an active citizen who is interested in the development of the Ejura-Seche-Dumasi municipality, Ibrahim Mohammed has been engaged in a vigorous social media campaign to expose development challenges that confront the people in the municipality and the need for those challenges to be fixed to the admiration and support of many of the citizens of the area. Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, 26 June 2021, some unscrupulous persons attacked Ibrahim Mohammed at his residence, where he sustained severe injuries. He was therefore rushed to the hospital for treatment. Unfortunately, he could not make it. He was reported dead on Monday, 28 June 2020. The attack on Ibrahim was reported to the police, but they took no immediate action. Ibrahim Mohammed was laid to rest on Tuesday morning, that is today. Upon the return of the family, friends and sympathizers from the cemetery, armed police officers and military men reportedly shot into the crowd of innocent citizens, discharging live ammunition, causing severe injuries to about 6 persons and killing 2 of them. Nasiru and Mutala died instantly. This exercise of indiscretion by the police and the military has exacerbated the security situation in the municipality. Prior to the attack on his life, Ibrahim Mohammed reported that he had received several voice messages of threats on his life from faceless miscreants. He therefore lodged complaint to the police for investigation. The gruesome murder of Ibrahim represents yet another dark day for our democracy. That an active citizen, Ibrahim Mohammed, alias Kaka, who is genuinely concerned about the underdevelopment in his community, will be gruesomely murdered. Even more regrettable is the fact that the police and military officers who are trained to maintain law and order and to protect life and protect property will discharge live bullets into a crowd of innocent citizens, thereby killing and maiming them is most regrettable. It is heartwarming that at least 2 suspects by name Ibrahim Isaka alias Anyas and Al-Hassan Husseini alias Alasan Jamulo, who were both bodyguards of the municipal chief executive Mohammed Salisu Bamba, have been arrested in connection with the murder of Ibrahim Mohammed. These same suspects have been linked to the voice message threats sent to Ibrahim Kaka. I am, by this statement, calling for calm in the Idris Autonomous Municipality. I call on the Minister for National Security, the Minister for Defense, and the Minister of Interior, and the Regional Security Council to take immediate steps to restore calm in the municipality. I am also calling on the Defense Minister to instate investigation into the shooting incident to ensure that trigger-happy soldiers can be brought to book. I demand nothing but justice for Ibrahim Mohammed and his family. The police must thoroughly investigate and prosecute the killers of Ibrahim to serve as a deterrent to persons who are acting with impunity in the municipality. While praying for the soul of Ibrahim, I also commiserate with his family, friends, and loved ones, especially the young widow and the children he left behind. I sympathize with the families of the victims of the shooting incidents, and also wish those who sustained injuries receiving treatment a speedy recovery. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Thank you, honorable members. Let me first invite Honorable James Agaga. A leader, I'll come to you, so if you can hold on. I'm taking...
We at the conclave there was an agreement, and my colleague will corroborate that there'll be one on each side, so that in all two members will speak to this issue. Agreement. And my colleague is here, he could confirm that. 2 speakers, one on each side.
Honorable leader, well taken, but I've already invited Honorable Agaga. So Agaga, you can take the floor, then I'll take one. The leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this sad occasion, I would like to convey my heartfelt condolence to the families of first Ibrahim Mohammed and the 2 others who were shot dead by the security personnel who were sent there to contain the crowd today. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement has raised very critical issues that should catch the attention and firm action of this House. First of all, Mr. Speaker, the remote cause of the demonstration, or if you like, procession, which then resulted in the deployment of the military and police to contain the demonstration, was the death or the killing of Ibrahim Mohammed. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement has indicated that they said Ibrahim Mohammed received threats. He received threats and actually took steps to lodge a complaint with the police. The fundamental question, Mr. Speaker, we need to be asking ourselves now is why the police did not provide Ibrahim Mohammed with protection. Because clearly he said he had received voice recordings which threatened that he was going to be attacked and killed. Unfortunately, he was not given any protection. There's killing. And Mr. Speaker, when the citizens of Ijura then decided to demonstrate, the police and military, to use excessive force. And Mr. Speaker, that is the next issue I'd like to deal with. The use of excessive force by the police and military in containing crowds or processions in this country is not new. So many years ago, Justice Archer was asked to head a commission of inquiry to look into the use of brute force, the use of excessive force by the police and military in dealing with crowds in this country. Mr. Speaker, Justice Archer's commission of inquiry made some profound recommendations. It appears that after so many years, we have decided to conveniently shelve the recommendations of Justice Philip Archer, and may his soul rest in peace. One of the profound recommendations Justice Archer made in that report was that, and I quote, crowd control methods needed to be modernized with the use of smoke bombs and water cannons instead of truncheons and guns. Mr. Speaker, this was a recommendation by the late Justice Philip Archer. So what happened to this recommendation? I have seen a video footage of what happened in Nigeria. And Mr. Speaker, what the police and soldiers did was simply to open live fire at the crowd. Live fire. They used live ammunition. They used guns, not water cannons. Not water cannons on unarmed civilians. Mr. Speaker, this is unacceptable in a democracy. And so whilst I speak, Mr. Speaker, it appears this August House needs to take urgent action to enforce recommendations of old are enforced and that they are observed religiously by our state security apparatus. Mr. Speaker, I would like to emphasize that the remote cause of what unfolded in Nigeria was the attempt by the state to suppress a fundamental right, which is the right to demonstrate. Fix the Ghana movement is a movement which has been in the news in recent times because they have a number of grievances and decided to air those grievances through what is supposed to be a constitutionally guaranteed right to demonstrate. But this group has gone through a lot of frustrations, which then resulted in the use of social media to ventilate some of the grievances of the group. Mr. Speaker, it was in the course of using social media to drum home the message of Fix the Ghana movement that then resulted in the threats on the life of Muhammad Ibrahim. And so, Mr. Speaker, in contributing to this statement, I would like to make the point that it is very important that we all, as a country, as a democracy, respect the fundamental right to demonstrate of our citizens. If we had done that, I am sure that by now we will not be contributing to a statement on the needless deaths which occurred at Ejura. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to government to institute investigations, and that if this is not done immediately, this House, and Mr. Speaker has the power to do so, even though this is a statement coming from a member, Mr. Speaker reserves the right to order that when we leave here, a parliamentary inquiry be instituted to look into this matter and make recommendations with a view to enforcing previous recommendations made by commissions of inquiry. The Okujeto Commission of Inquiry in 2001 also made far-reaching recommendations for police reform. But all these recommendations appear to have fallen on deaf ears. So it is time this House stamps its authority as the oversight body responsible for the conduct of affairs of our security agencies takes action. With those words, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say thank you for extending the opportunity to me in a
No. We are giving one from the leader, another one for the leader. So, Honorable Majority Whip.
Speaker,
On a rather sad note, I want to fully associate myself with the commentary and the points as raised by the ranking member for Defense and Interior. Speaker, I think that to start with, one has to commend your outfit for the decision to admit the statement. As timeless as it is, and a good response and a feedback to the report as it's being circulated in the media. It's unfortunate this happened, and it will be established that we have credible information that already some arrests have been effected, which for me is a positive start for, or to pave way for other investigations to be conducted. Speaker, when things happen like this, I mean, when we're growing up back at the university, having intercation with the police, the crowd control, demonstration here and there, we have moved on as a country. And so when these things happen, it appears very backward on our forward march as a democracy. So I want to condemn the killings. And killings anywhere should be condemned by all well-meaning Ghanaians. What I don't agree with is for anybody to create the impression that the state is oppressing exercise of rights. And I put this in context because if we begin to speak and make this narration, we will not see our way clear. I mean, institutions of state are replete with individuals, and these individuals are human like us. So people who serve in the Ghana Police Service, the Army, other security services are human like us. So if under certain circumstances we have these personalities going beyond boundaries, and some, for want of a better expression, excessive in the enforcement of the law, then we have to depart and identify all these people, but not to lump them together and say that the state is oppressing individuals. That I don't agree. So what we may have to do is to encourage.
Honorable members, order, please.
Speaker, what we should be doing, and I heard my colleague, my good friend, we are all at the NUT student leadership together, the Honorable Agaga, very experienced student leader. We should be encouraging state institutions like the police, the army, the national security, to conduct a thorough investigation. And then the perpetrator should be brought to book. We cannot put a bad name on the Ghana Police Service because some individuals have engaged in some excesses. That would be most unfortunate. And I think we distinguish and distill these elements in the Ghana Police Service, other police services who are doing a good job, and let them face the rigors of the law. I think when we do that, people will be cautious in the exercise of enforcement of the law, and people will understand that indeed the source of their power is the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, and there's nobody on the laws of our country. We must also be a bit measured in our commentary. I would never support the killing of any individual, any Ghanaian. Citizens must also cooperate, and the Honorable Agaga, when he was commenting, have sought to make the point that there were earlier warnings that were given, and he sought to ask what the police did in regard all these earlier warnings that were given to them. I think that these are genuine concerns that all of us need to bring our minds to. Speaker, he concluded by calling for probably from your outfit. I think that our standing orders gives us the power. The committee, your committee, the committee the honorable member serves on, the committee on defense and interior, may not even need the directive of the speaker to begin to ask questions, to begin to ask the sector minister to appear before the committee for some investigation at our level to go on. We are quick at saying, oh,
Let there be a full-scale investigation. What are we doing as members of parliament as part of our oversight? Let's also do our job. And our regulations mandate us to go into some of these concerns and investigate and report to plenary without necessarily waiting for a referral from the Speaker. It's most unfortunate. Our heart goes out to the family, the people of Secheduma say, particularly our Member of Parliament, we mourn with you, and probably Parliament in your nation should also take some action through the relevant committee to show a certain concern for the citizens and the lives lost, and also to continuously employ the Ghana Police Service and the other security agencies to do a thorough investigation into this matter, so that never again shall citizens be visited with violence, and armed citizens who are going on a peaceful demonstration violence be visited on them. It's most unfortunate, and I think that we need to go ahead and do what we have to do. We cannot, the Honorable, my good friend, we cannot base our conclusion on videos going viral. We can't do that. And it's a house of record. So I urge my good friend, the Honorable Agaga, to team up with the chair of the Committee of Defense and Interior and our good friend, the Honorable Ken Ejapon, to work together. And I can assure you that my good friend, the Honorable Muntaka, and leadership will give you all the necessary support and with the blessings of the Speaker for us to come to the bottom of this matter. Speaker, I thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Very good. Honorable Minority Chief Whip, you may,
thank you.
You may wind up with them.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is really very sad that what started in Jumasi constituency.
Yes, Honorable Member, any issue?
Honorable Speaker, my colleague leader heard you when you said you were giving us one each. One from his side, one from our side. And that has been done. No, he's ceded his to Honorable Agaga.
Honorable leader, please. I didn't cede his position to anybody. Before I realized, I had already called Honorable James Agaga. So I just gave James the opportunity and decided to concentrate on the leadership. So, Honorable Minority. Yes.
I take a few, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's just too unfortunate that what started in Jumasi as a gentleman using the power of social media to expose the difficulties that his community is facing had led to so far 3 people losing their lives and several injured. The Speaker, this is very sad. And the Speaker, I would just want to caution all of us that we all are taking the peace that we are enjoying for granted. We are taking the peace that we are enjoying as a people for granted. And we are just assuming that because I'm in the military, I'm in the police, I've been trusted with a gun, at the least provocation, I can fire, and when people even die, nothing will happen. People will just talk about it 3-4 days, and it is gone. I don't want to caution our peers, our colleagues in the security agencies. They should know that it is because of the peace that we are enjoying that makes them relevant. That gives them the opportunity to be able to operate. May God forbid, and may God forbid, should this country decide to go lawless, the gun that you are holding will not be able to save you. And we've seen it in so many countries where they will be running for their lives just as any other person will be running for his or her life. It is too unfortunate that in the broad daylight, you see a military person take his knees down and aim into unarmed civilians and shoot into the crowd. Mr. Speaker, the videos are there. I hope that the media will, because it is there. Just see, goes down, aim into the crowd and fire. Even if, without admitting that the crowd was becoming lawless. That is why they are trained. I'm not trained to manage crowd control. But they there are so many other things that they can do without necessarily firing live ammunition into the crowd. This is very unfortunate. Mr. Speaker, a gentleman has lost his life. They've gone to bury, and Mr. Speaker, you know it comes naturally with pain, knowing very well that a week ago this gentleman was healthy and walking around. All of a sudden he's been attacked, he's been hospitalized 3 days after his death. You should expect that there will be pain in his friends, the youth, and I believe the police and the security agencies should have even been to that family house before the barrier to help manage the tensions. I remember some years back there was a similar incident, Mr. Speaker, if you remember, in our old friend's constituency, Old Tafo. And when someone was shot and killed, I told the regional minister that, look, let's not wait until they go and bury and come, because when they go and bury and they are coming, the emotions will be so high. So let's go and start engaging so that we'll be able to calm tempers before the barrier is done. And when we did that, it was a bit manageable, because naturally it comes with an outflow of pain and anguish. But fortunately for us, this was in the daylight. And I don't know what necessitated the reason for firing into the crowd. And now, from one lost, we now have 3 lost. And if we are not careful, in burying these 2, there may be spillover anger again. So I want to urge the National Security Minister, whom I've taken the opportunity to speak to when this incident was happening, and has given a lot of assurance that they will take the necessary steps to get the community to be calm, so that we do not hear tomorrow again that another life is lost. But Mr. Speaker, let me say, I'm worried about the alleged reports as stated in the statement that 2 of the gentlemen that have been arrested in connection with their first death are boys that are known to be openly following the sitting municipal chief executive as bodyguards. The Speaker, if it is true, then all of us need to open our eyes to watch and make sure that if they are guilty, they suffer the full consequences of their action. Because usually it starts this way, and if the political actors have their hands in, the investigation never gets anywhere. And then before you realize, as the local parlance we usually say, is let this one be a foolish case. If you have seen so many shootings and killings, and this is where I probably disagree with my colleague, Majority Whip, Honorable Anudompre, when he said that when people are trying to blame the state, the reason why everybody blames the state is that when even police and military act wrongfully, the expectation is that the state will be firm in getting the wrongdoers punished. Because when the next time another person is going out, he knows if he or she does not act professionally, punishment will follow. That's how you blame the state. Because if these things happen and nothing happens, obviously you cannot put the blame on any other person but the state. Because all of us invest our trust in the state to protect all of us. So it is my hope that the state will act and act decisively. Yes, I agree with my colleague Majority Chief Whip that our Committee on Defense and Interior should start doing something, calling them the necessary persons, questioning, and try to gather something. And also, let's not leave this investigation to the police or the military administration to do. Because anytime, we have seen it time and time again, anytime you allow them to do it themselves, it ends up being a cover-up. And I have a clear one that happened in my constituency when the 7 young guys were killed as armed robbers. The police initial investigation said they were armed robbers. But when we insisted on an independent investigation that was held by a high court judge, it came out that they were not armed robbers. So if you allow the police and the military to do this themselves, don't expect anything extraordinary. But if, with the help of the Defense and Interior Committee, we allow an independent investigation into this matter, it may help us to get the perpetrators who have decided that because they were holding guns, the best is to shoot into the crowd and kill them. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want to call on the youth of Edrasa Tudumasi to let reasoning prevail. Yes, 2 wrongs do not make a right. Anger and allowing anger to overflow doesn't solve the problem. They should be calm and allow the processes to happen. Yes, sometimes the process is slow, very frustrating, and disappointing, but it is the best we have. Any attempt to take the laws into their hands and want to vent their anger and want to get instant reward from their pain will rather exacerbate the situation, just as they've seen today. They lost one, they thought that they were too angry and it was so painful, they cannot take it, now they've lost 2 more. Are they going to continue the same path and lose more? I believe that they should exercise restraint, they should listen to the community, they should listen to their MP, listen to their security agencies. Let's allow the healing process to begin. If we don't allow the healing process to begin, I'm afraid this may escalate and many more lives could be lost. And that will not be in the interest of the youth. I send my condolences to the bereaved family and our colleague, the Member of Parliament. We know that these are very difficult moments for you, very difficult times. We hope that you yourself, as Member of Parliament, even in your effort to you watch your utterance. Because sometimes when you get to the ground and the pain, you want to please the youth, you may yourself may be caught in the midst of fire, also venting more fire, and that will not be helpful. We wish you well, and we pray that the good Lord will help calm the constituency and calm the whole of that country. And the perpetrators, may they be found. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you. We will take the second statement, and that will be the earlier one I had mentioned, the statement to celebrate the life and to commemorate the death of the last of the Mohicans, His Excellency Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia, who lived from 28 April 2024 to the 17th June 2021 by a member of Parliament for Saraga South constituency, Honorable Zuwera Mohammed Ibrahima. Honorable, you may take the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And let me start by thanking you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity given me to make this statement. As you indicated, to celebrate the life and to commemorate the death of the last of the Mohicans, His Excellency Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia. Mr. Speaker, it's almost 2 weeks now, precisely on Thursday, 1721, when Africa lost one of its last independence struggle icons, a foremost freedom fighter and a Pan-Africanist, His Excellency Kenneth David Kaunda, affectionately known as KK. Mr. Speaker, the late Kenneth Kaunda served as the President of Zambia from 1964 to 1991, and he was at the forefront of the struggle for independence from British rule. Mr. Speaker, Kenneth Kaunda had his contemporaries and cohorts of African politicians at the height of the fight for independence, including the likes of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the eminent Pan-Africanist and the founder of the state of Ghana. Also in the league of these great African liberationists, Nyerere of Tanzania, Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe, Patrice Lumumba of Congo, Nnamdi Azikiwe and Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, both of Nigeria, Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, Seka Stevens of Sierra Leone, Sekou of Guinea, Anwar Sadat of Egypt, and Felix Houphouët-Boigny of the Ivory Coast, and many others. Mr. Speaker, these statesmen are all departed, but Mr. Speaker, these statesmen raised high the flag of Africa amongst the Committee of Nations. Mr. Speaker, following the passing of Kenneth Kaunda of Africa, the BBC reported, and I quote, Kenneth Kaunda, Zambia's first president and one of the last of the generation of African leaders who fought colonialism, has died aged 97, unquote. Mr. Speaker, going by this attribution from the BBC, Kenneth Kaunda was an African icon and thus deserves to be celebrated. It is therefore ironic and disappointing that the news media of Ghana have not highlighted the death of this great son of Africa enough in order to generate the necessary debate and discussions around the values him and his contemporaries espoused, and to educate and orient our citizens about our past leaders and the Pan-African struggle that brought us liberty and freedom. Mr. Speaker, this point is very important to the extent that today's generation of Ghanaians and Africans will be losing an important part of our history and heritage when we miss these narratives. A Sierra Leonean journalist and writer added in writing about what young Africans know about their recent history and why it is important, had this to say, and I quote, I was shocked to find out on the 97th birthday of Kenneth Zambia, Zambia's first president and a giant in the fight against colonialism, that some people had never heard of him, unquote. Mr. Speaker, we owe it to our forebears to celebrate their struggles and achievements. We owe it to the younger generation to instill in them a spirit of patriotism and sacrifice to realize the dream of a completely liberated and free Africa. And Mr. Speaker, we owe it to ourselves to remember the sacrifices, dedication, and the toil of our forebears in order that we will continue to endeavor to use our unique roles in society to enhance the frontiers of freedom and development that our forebears envisaged and stood for. It is often said, Mr. Speaker, that a people that do not know their history are bound to repeat the mistakes of the past and compromise the future. Mr. Speaker, in the 1950s, like our own Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Kenneth Kaunda was a pioneer of African independence and a key figure in what was then Northern Rhodesia's independence movement from British until he became president in 1964. History has it that Kenneth Kaunda attended the 1958 All-African People's Conference in Ghana, where Kenneth Kaunda was more successful in winning support from Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and this led to Kenneth Kaunda and several of his associates breaking away from Harry Mwanga Nkumbule's group
at the Northern Rhodesian African Congress. The Northern Rhodesian African Congress was renamed the African National Congress, and Kenneth Kaunda became its first in 1953. And he made a pledge to revive hope and rejuvenate the freedom struggle. Mr. Speaker, when the leadership of the ANC clashed over strategy in 1958 to 1959, Kaunda carried a major part of the ANC operating structure into a new organization, the Zambia African National Congress. Mr. Speaker, Kenneth Kaunda became president of the new organization and skillfully used it to forge a militant policy against the British plan for a federation of the three Central African colonies, Southern Rhodesia, Northern Rhodesia, and Nyasaland. Mr. Speaker, following his arrest in March 1959 for convening an authorized assembly, Kaunda's comrades formed the United National Independence Party to replace the ZANC. Mr. Speaker, the authorities in Zambia then released Mr. Kaunda in Lusaka on 8 January 1960. And at the end of the month, he was elected as president of the left-leaning United Independence Party. Mr. Speaker, the first major elections leading to final decolonization of Zambia were held in 1962. The two major African parties, the UNIP and the ANC, gained most of the votes. The UNIP was the winner, gaining 15 of the 37 seats in the new Legislative Council. UNIP's success was attributed overwhelmingly to the leadership of Kaunda. Mr. Speaker, Kenneth Kaunda stepped down as Zambia's president after losing multi-party elections in 1991. Mr. Speaker, our own country is replete with similar scenarios. Our first experience was the great Osagyefo himself. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was arrested for leading, and I quote, positive action campaign in 1950 and imprisoned, only for him to be released a year later to lead the newly formed government after his party, the Convention People's Party, won the 1951 elections. He proceeded to become the Prime Minister of this country. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, in 1979, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings was arrested on 15 May 1979 and placed behind bars. His comrades in the Ghana Army broke the jail on 4 June 1979, released him and proceeded with him to the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation and announced his leadership of the military regime of the AFRC. After all this, he became the president of the Fourth Republic under the 1992 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, a common through Africa's leadership from the 50s to the 80s was synonymous with being arrested and jailed and later becoming leader after being released. Mr. Speaker, the similarities that all these towering African personalities, including Nelson Mandela of South Africa, had is that good leaders and provided leadership to and for the people. The Nelson Mandela Foundation of Africa has said they will not forget Kenneth Kaunda's contribution to the struggle against colonialism and apartheid. Mr. Speaker, Kenneth Kaunda was a strong supporter of efforts to end apartheid in South Africa. He was also a leading supporter of liberation movements in Mozambique and what is now Zimbabwe. Mr. Speaker, in later life, Kenneth Kaunda turned his attention to supporting various charitable organizations, especially those in the fight against HIV, after one of his sons, Masuzio Kaunda, died from an AIDS-related disease. Kenneth Kaunda had this to say in 2002, and I quote, "We must now fight using the same zeal in fighting AIDS. which threatens to wipe out Africa, unquote. I wish, Mr. Speaker, that I had a quote to attribute to the eminent Kenneth Kaunda in the face of COVID-19, which is the newest and immediate threat of Africa. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, I have none. But I guess I can say to African leaders, including our own in Ghana, not to seek to make business and profit from COVID-19, since it threatens to wipe out Africa. On Friday, 18th June, South Africa reported a COVID-19. On Wednesday, 23rd June 2021, Dr. Patrick Kumar Buaji, Director General of the Ghana Health Service, cautioned about the new Indian coronavirus variant, known as the Delta variant, which has been detected in Ghana. And so, in the wake of this new threat, I can only implore the government of Ghana to come clean on the procurement of the Sputnik V vaccine, rid it of all controversies, as lives are at stake. Mr. Speaker, it is important for us to invoke the selfless leadership and vision for an interconnected Africa, which these great sons of Africa envisage, and which still has relevance for modern-day governance. Mr. Speaker, it's important the modern crop of African leaders realize that the agenda that these selfless leaders set hasn't been fulfilled. And so we owe it to ourselves and the future generation to emulate their ideals and thought leadership. Mr. Speaker, I pray that as we start the march into the new decade, Africa will be blessed with selfless and visionary leaders who are endowed with the love for humanity and Africa's development. Long live Africa, long live Ghana. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity.
Honorable members, I will admit only 2 contributors. If you get one from this side, or I'll take it from there. Let me give it to the ranking member for Foreign Affairs, Honorable Member for Northton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful to you for the opportunity to contribute to this statement, which has been so eloquently delivered by the Honorable Zuwaira Ibrahima, who is a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Mr. Speaker, this statement is timely and it is most auspicious that this House honor the memory of His Excellency Kenneth Kaunda, who is popularly and affably Uncle Keke. Mr. Speaker, Comrade Kaunda, as has been well articulated by the Honorable Zuwaira Ibrahima, is the last icon of that golden era of freedom fighters, those to whom we owe all the freedoms, the liberties, and the dignity that we enjoy today. The opportunity to face that inevitable destination for every independent state to be able to govern themselves, self-rule, which our forebears had to fight for. Some were maimed, some were killed, some were imprisoned. The Honorable Member of Parliament has enumerated the ordeals of Comrade Keke, how he was imprisoned and the many times that he had to suffer the brutalities at the hands of. Mr. Speaker, Kenneth Kaunda's story is a Ghanaian story as well. We know that he was here in this very enclave. It was for the 1958 All Africa People's Congress that these edifices were built. It's only befitting, and it is quite fortuitous that we pay tribute to him from these hallowed grounds. It was here that he met his mentor, the Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, at the All Africa People's Congress in 1958. And Mr. Speaker, he was a changed man since then, received a lot of inspiration, a lot of tutelage, and a lot of support, financially, ideologically, and even militarily. We know that Ghana became a hub for freedom fighters and activists to receive training and to be prepared for the daunting task that, as young students, they had set upon themselves since the days of the West African Students' Union, when they held the Manchester Conference in 1948. So, Mr. Speaker, Kenneth Kaunda's story cannot be delinked from Ghana and the very inspiring role of our forebears in ensuring that the independence of Ghana will be meaningless unless it is linked with the total liberation of the African continent. So this House is well placed, and it is very much in order that we honor the memory of Comrade KK. One of the attributes of His Excellency Kenneth Kaunda is that he is a consummate Democrat. He did not say that because he is the one who led Zambia to independence, when he lost an election in 1991, he will stay on. Indeed, he made no effort to stay on. He made no effort to declare himself life president, as we have seen others try to do. He made no effort to amend the constitution to remove term limits, as we are seeing in recent times. One of the lessons that we must learn is that even for these great African icons, who were very popular, who bet their countries, they knew when to bow out, when it was time to bow out. And one of the very poignant lessons that we must learn from Comrade Kenneth Kaunda is that he bowed out in 1991, but he also showed that you can be a former elected official and still be useful to your people. One of the reasons why African leaders are amending the constitution and removing term limits and wanting to force themselves on the people, even when they have overstayed their welcome, is that they do not see a path forward. They do not think that they can be useful to the construction of their countries, and so they force themselves to stay in power. Kenneth Kaunda took up many courses as statesman and former. We all know the work he did in creating awareness against the deadly disease HIV/AIDS after his own son died due to HIV/AIDS infection. So, Mr. Speaker, there are many, many useful lessons that Kenneth Kaunda teaches us. The good Lord blessed him. He died at the age of 97, full of years, full of wisdom. And it is regrettable, if I may add, Mr. Speaker, that it didn't appear that he was utilized fully. I recall that I attended one lecture which he delivered when His Excellency President John Ajako Nkufuor invited him, I think as part of the Ghana 50 celebrations. That was the last time any serious effort was made to get him to come and impact on the youth, to seek to guide the younger generation and to share the experience. We probably could have done more to benefit fully from the very towering reputation and image of His Excellency Kenneth Kaunda. I hope that historians and researchers will now commit to studying him, his works, and all the great legacy that he has left behind, so that it will be well documented, and then the younger generation can learn from his life, his works, and all the ideals that he stood for. It is now the time, Mr. Speaker, for the current generation of African leaders to reflect on what will also be said about us when we have taken a bow, when we have exited the stage. Will the international community, will our constituents, the people we serve, pay glowing tribute, or will they say of us that they were disappointed in the opportunities that we had as leaders? These were leaders who were sacrificial. These were leaders who put principle ahead of their personal comfort. These were people who were ready to die for the cause of liberation, for the cause of ensuring that the African people had their rightful place and that their human rights were respected, and that the African was well and truly served, and that were improved for their people. So, Mr. Speaker, very useful lessons. A giant is gone, but his memory will live forever, and his works must continue to guide us, and it must inspire the current generation of African leaders to also follow in those golden footsteps. I thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to the statement.
Yes. Nobody? Then Honorable Member for Tamale North, and that's the last statement. But Tamale Central, please, be snappy, please.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this outstanding statement. And the reason why I insisted I contribute to this statement is that I am a Pan-Africanist. And as the former Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union, I had the opportunity to have met several African leaders who believe in the ideals and the values that those African leaders stood for. Kenneth Kaunda was one of the liberators of this continent. They had a vision. They had a plan for Africa. The question I asked myself and I asked my colleagues in this House, whether the leaders today have a vision and have a plan. Because if we had visions and plans as they did, I really don't think that we would have been struggling as we're struggling today. Just like Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and other African leaders, Kenneth Kaunda also declared a one-party state in his country. Right, Honorable Speaker? Because at the time, you needed such positions to be able to galvanize the people for the socio-economic development and progress of those respective states. They fought for the...
Honorable Member, the statement should not engender any debate.
It's not.
I'm just reminding him. I know why I'm saying that. He should focus.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm making statements of fact, and I'm guided by your wisdom. This great leader and his colleagues, who saw the need to galvanize forces for the progressive march of the entire continent, could only achieve that by the declaration of... Right Honorable Speaker, we are quick to make reference to what happened in Asia, and I have listened to comments that suggest that those countries
indeed we had independence at the same time with them, and that they have developed so much, suggesting that our leaders at that time didn't do much, and for which reason we cannot catch up with the Asian tigers in terms of socio-economic development. Unfortunately, we had one leaders who ruled for decades. That when you want to have continuity in terms of the policies you formulated for the purposes of growing your countries, sometimes you need to have such one-party states. And it is justified at the time they did what they did. Because we are told that when you are in extreme realities, you need extreme resolutions. And Kenneth Kaunda indeed became the last symbol for the liberation of the continent. By the time he left us, the entire continent was virtually liberated politically. Unfortunately, we are not, and we are still not liberated economically. If you make reference to many countries, particularly the Francophone-speaking countries, they still have their reserves in France. As a matter of fact, the economic decisions they take in their respective countries are determined by people who subjugated them in the name of colonialism. To that extent, I am challenging myself and challenging everybody, even those who are unwilling to comment on this great man, that he left us a legacy, that we should, regardless of differences in political ideology, we should look at what they stood for. He was leftist Lenin, and the party that he formed when he lost elections in 1991, having ruled the country for 27 years, he gave up power. 28 years, he gave up power. Right, Honorable Speaker. I think that it is about time we all started reading the works of these people. In conclusion, as the Secretary General, I had the opportunity to have met Thabo Mbeki in South Africa, and he made a famous statement. He asked us, how many of you have read books of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah? And he told us, student leaders from the continent, that if African leaders, including those who are linked towards the right, that if they had the time to read the books of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and his contemporaries, that Africa would have been a different place. In Ghana, in the 2007 AU conference, President Abdullah Wade famously stated to his colleagues, African leaders, that the Africa we are in today wouldn't have the problems we have if they had taken the time to read the books of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and followed the principles he stood for. Just like Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who was chastised, this great leader was also chastised in his country. And for which reason, if you observe the 1991 elections in Zambia, they concocted stories just to denigrate him. And that has been the story in this great continent of ours. That leaders who meant well for their countries, leaders who fought for the progress of their countries, ended up being chastised, using a section of the media, and using politicians who are absolutely ungrateful. And I think that that has been the problem we face in this country. Right, Honorable Speaker, as a level 100 student, I had the opportunity to have participated in Ali Mazuri's lecture at the Great Hall. And he made a statement, famously. He talked about former President Rawlings. And he said, and I quote, that he started as a dictator and ended a democrat. We would know the value of our leaders, and what we witness is sharing crocodile tears. We must move away from that, praise these leaders when they are alive, and I urge my colleagues, particularly those from the other side of this house, that I have a lot of books of these great leaders, including Nkrumah, which I can make available. And I believe as we read those books, we'll begin to move progressively for the good of this country and perhaps towards the left. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute.
Yes. Honorable Member, I ask you to be snappy. Anyway, we will take another statement on the importance of cyber security and data protection within the context of our national security. And this statement has been put up by a member for Crote constituency, Honorable Dr. Zinato Ajima Lawrence. Honorable, you may take the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to make a statement on the importance of cybersecurity and data protection within the context of our national security architecture. Traditionally, national security was limited to our airspace, land, and water bodies, and all that exists within our territorial boundaries. But with the advances in technology, the examples of issues that arise from the use of these technologies range from hacking of people's personal accounts, blackmail, and cyberbullying, as well as data theft. As a result, it is incumbent on the state to take steps to ensure its national security and personal security of its citizens are protected. Some examples of such issues, I beg your pardon. The point of contact of any cyber-related breach is, and in an era of high mobile penetration, the mobile phone is a potential Achilles heel. In Ghana, over 50% of the population owns a smart communication device, which are entry points to the threat Ghana faces as far as data security and protection are concerned. It is imperative that national security adopts an approach that creates the necessary awareness for end users, such as market women or the Uber driver or even a member of parliament in our case. As the drive continues towards the introduction of various digital systems to enhance our tax collection, financials, payroll, banking transactions, health, communication, and general data storage and preservation, it is crucial that the relevant cybersecurity systems are put in place concurrently. Mr. Speaker, it is reckless to transfer all our data into digital platforms while we do not have the capacity to protect ourselves from cyber attacks. There is an urgent need to integrate some into the agencies that are traditionally charged with the defense and security of the country. Cyber defense falls within the remit of the Ghana Armed Forces, and it is imperative that the digitization process include adequate capacity building within the various security and intelligence agencies as a matter of urgency to ensure that our data is well protected and to give other countries with whom we cooperate on matters of security and intelligence the assurance that the data they share with Ghana will be adequately protected. Globally, there is a deficit of 3 million cybersecurity experts, which means there is a job market for such persons. Mr. Speaker, as we lament about the teeming unemployed youths, we could also streamline our career counseling and educational institutions to do a constant sweep of the jobs market in order to correctly assign places for specific courses to ensure that graduates have better opportunities for employment in Ghana and abroad, especially within the African Continental Free Trade Area becoming a reality. Mr. Speaker, proper audits of the cybersecurity systems in place should be conducted in all the ministries, departments, and agencies that have undergone digitization to assess the level of protection they have the human and technological capacity to ensure real-time cyber threat assessments and have necessary firewalls and other means in place to prevent attacks. This is so important because if we are making it mandatory for citizens to have ID cards, to apply for passports and other documentation online that have their biodata, to have various institutions store sensitive data online, then there must be the assurance that the state will protect the data of its citizens. It is no longer sufficient to have a safe in an office to store documents or security personnel at the entrance to sensitive institutions. Ghana must ensure that cybersecurity is really prioritized in order to avoid the country either being held to crippled at the hands of persons or groups with superior cyber warfare. superior knowledge in cyber warfare, I beg your pardon. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the era of security being the remit of security agencies alone is gone. The increased connectivity globally has brought the need for us as a country to ensure that our multi-sectoral cybersecurity is assured. We need to invest in the necessary hardware and capacity building of cybersecurity experts to ensure that the safety of Ghana's cyber future is enhanced through cyber awareness, and that our youth can also be gainfully employed, and our national data and critical national infrastructure will be adequately protected. The government must take steps to ensure that the relevant agencies are resourced to protect the citizens of this country sooner rather than later. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, Honourable Member, I will take two contributors. Yes, Honourable Member.
For Ho West.
For Ho West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Bidra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me commend my sister for this statement. Sister and colleague for this statement. Mr. Speaker, cybersecurity affects all of us, one way or the other. Whether you like it or not, whether you are a technological savvy person or not, cybersecurity affects you. The earlier we take it serious, the better. In the past, as she has mentioned, it used to be space war, but it's no longer space war. Let me give a typical example. The Internet of all things is one of the areas that we can all be affected and attacked. For instance, taking parliamentary websites and what goes into it. Anyone who has access to the parliamentary website can blow the whole of parliamentary website, and that will affect our very lives. It means we cannot even hold meeting in the chamber, because whatever we connected to our parliamentary website, as well as what goes on with our parliamentary website and ICT. Mr. Speaker, countries are spending huge sums of money when it comes to cybersecurity. Fortunately, I happens to be one of the delegates to Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Cybersecurity Conference. And they took us in 2020, February, and we were sent to Oxford University. What I saw them, Mr. Speaker, tells us that Ghana, we are not doing anything at all. Students from all over the world, young graduates, were brought into Oxford University just to develop systems that will prevent an attack on either railway or on airspace or anything at all. And these young guys were brainstorming and monies were spent on them. Mr. Speaker, the question I asked myself when I came back, and as I reported to Mr. Speaker, was, are we ready as a Ghanaian? Are you ready as the people of this country to spend so much in research and also to make sure that we are not attacked? And I'll give a typical example again, Mr. Speaker. Take Tor, for instance, or any of the oil companies in onshore. They get access to their cyberspace. They can attack their system and then can affect the whole operation, which people cannot even drill. Or go to Tor. If you have opportunity and you are able to attack their system, it will affect the whole of Tor. It can affect anybody at all. Those of us who have programmed our system, that you be wherever you are and check what is going on at home. If anybody have access to your system, can follow you and track you. That is what cybersecurity is all about. Now, I kept asking myself, once again, are we ready as individuals to make sure that we are cyber conscious and that we will not be affected by this cyber security? Most of us here, our faces are on Facebook. People have used us and, used our faces, they have used the profile to dupe people in our name. What is the cyber unit of Ghana Police Service doing about it? You go there, unfortunately, they will tell you that they cannot even track the people. So it means that we have not invested enough in the cyber security fight in this country. So we are vulnerable. Either as a member of parliament or a business person, you are vulnerable to attack. The earlier we take this seriously, the better for all of us. Once again, Mr. Speaker, I thank you and thank the maker of the statement.
Yes, Honorable Chief.
Speaker, let me commend the maker of the statement for bringing this matter up and nudging the House accordingly. Speaker, fact be told, I think that in our quiet life amongst us, we raise issues of cyber security not related only to members of parliament, even our households and people we dealt with. But more often than not, we tend to brush it under the carpet and assume as a concern will go away. But it remains as it is and probably getting out of hand and worse. Clearly, the motivation to go into cybersecurity and generally IT, for me, is a concern in this country. It is not enough for us to talk about this, just on the face value of it. Their value chains are long, and people should be motivated to even venture into cybersecurity, or I think that consciousness has really dawned on us. Now, the security concerns of our country, I see them more of a reactionary. We hear that people are from other places trying to penetrate our borders, and we go there and show brute force. More than globally, intelligence and security is more of fine intelligence, not brute force. And so, I want to associate fully with the concerns and the statement to commend my good friend and a colleague for the statement she's made, and for Parliament as an institution, Speaker, and I really have to encourage the committee to do more so that we can come atop this situation and be able to strengthen our institutions. Obama came to this country and said that we need strong institutions, and the institutions, the strength of our institutions, is not more measured about brute force. It's about intelligence. Intelligence bear relationship with security. Unless we are able to do this, issues concerning cybersecurity will still be a challenge and a mirage to us as a country. So I commend the maker of the statement and wish that we'll push it further and to ensure that we come to a very good conclusion as a country moving forward. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Leader. Honorable members, we are taking two more statements. And we have 7, but we are taking 2 more statements. And these 2 statements are related. They are all on health issues, and they are all focusing on Upper West region. So we are taking the 2 statements together, then afterwards we do the contributions together. The first one is in the name of a member for Dafiama Busie Isa, Honorable Dr. Sebastian Sandawi, on the need to resource the Upper West Regional Hospital to provide quality health care. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to make this statement on the critical resource constraints confronting the newly commissioned Upper West Regional Hospital. It is imperative because the situation has attendant adverse effects on the ability of the hospital to provide the requisite quality health care to over 868,000 people of the Upper West region and beyond. Mr. Speaker, in pursuit of the need to provide access to quality secondary health care to bridge the existing access gap in the Upper West region, the Upper West Regional Hospital was commissioned on January 2020. It was expected to bring great relief to the people of the region as specialist care, which was hitherto not accessible in areas of orthopedic surgery, obstetric and gynecological care, ophthalmic care, physiotherapy, ear, nose and throat services, dental care, CT scan, and mammography are now made available. Most especially, Mr. Speaker, the orthopedic under the able leadership of the hard-working Dr. Robert Amesia. Notwithstanding the achievements, Mr. Speaker, the hospital's ability to sustain its operations is seriously threatened as a result of the foregoing: lack of seed capital or fund at the commencement of operations, alien conventions and healthcare space. The Upper West Regional Hospital was commissioned without any enabling fund or seed capital to finance its startup or operational activities. As a result, the health authorities in the region have had to finance the hospital's operations on credit, leaving it with an overwhelming and debilitating fiscal. However, it is well established that vehicles are sine qua non to operations of health facilities of this caliber. It is in respect of the above that the peculiarity of the situation, that is the failure to provide the hospital with a single vehicle, unlike other hospitals, beckons questions. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, lack of some critical health professionals or specialists has also been identified as one of the greatest challenges confronting the regional hospital. Though the hospital has provisions for specialists such as pediatrics, cardiology, neurology, and radiology, among others, the units cannot be operationalized owing to the lack of these specialists. A full complement of secondary care requires these medical specialists to avert the situation of clients having to seek such specialist care in other regions with the attendant cost and inconvenience. Finally, Right Honourable Speaker, there exists a great untapped training potential at the hospital which should be taken advantage of. The establishment of the hospital comes with facilities for personnel training coupled with the specialists who would serve as tutors and preceptors. There is an opportunity to use the facility to train critical care nurses who are in short supply in the country. Right Honourable Speaker, having espoused the challenges of the regional hospital, I propose the following solutions to salvage the institution from the imminent threat of collapse. It is therefore recommended that the Minister for Health, working with the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, should make provision for the seed capital of funding which is due the hospital, and subsequently also provide same to the hospital in line with international best practices and requirements for startup hospitals. Secondly, the Minister for Health should liaise with the Ministry of Energy as well as the Ministry for Finance and Economic Planning to enable the provision of dedicated power line to restore the power in inadequacies. Thirdly, Right Honourable Speaker, the Minister for Health should make a special case to secure funding to procure at least 5 operational vehicles for the hospital. Finally, Right Honourable Speaker, the Minister for Health should also consider proposal to set up a critical care nursing training school to the regional hospital. To conclude, Right Honourable Speaker, I wish to state that though the Upper West Regional Hospital provides a great potential to deal with the access gaps in secondary healthcare provision in the region, this potential has not been fully realized due to burden problems. In fact, the ability of the hospital to provide the required care is threatened with imminent collapse if the challenges enumerated above, especially the seed capital, are not addressed. It is therefore my ardent hope that this statement will call into the relevant authorities, particularly the Minister for Health, to deal decisively with these challenges. Once again, I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity granted me to make the statement. Thank you.
Okay, so we take this statement as well, so that you do the contributions together. Statement by Honourable Bexidin, MP for Laura, on the Laura Municipal Hospital and Healthcare in Laura Municipality. So, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to make my maiden statement in this August House. Mr. Speaker, this statement concerns the state of the Laura Municipal Hospital and the health expected to deliver to the people of the municipality. Mr. Speaker, the Laura Hospital was first established in 1928 during the colonial period. Established as a health center then, it grew to become a district hospital, but now serves the new Laura municipality as its foremost health delivery facility since 2018. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, in spite of its acquired status, the Laura Municipal Hospital is unable to its mission statement. For the past few years, many patients who use the hospital have complained seriously about the poor services they receive when they visit the facility for medical care. They receive poor service delivery, though the Laura Hospital remains the foremost health facility in the municipality. Mr. Speaker, it is these concerns and complaints which have come to my attention and prompted this statement on the floor of this House. Mr. Speaker, some of these challenges include, but are not limited to, the following. 1. There are no drugs in the hospital to the extent that when prescriptions are made, the only way patients can have their drugs is for them to purchase them from drugstores and pharmacies outside the hospital. And this is so for virtually every drug, except perhaps for paracetamol. The lack of drugs and other facilities have rendered completely useless the holding of the health insurance card, as the holders are simply told to buy their drugs or to access their facilities from private sources outside. So, the question one will ask is, what is the use of holding an NI card? Mr. Speaker, in this situation, we are virtually back to the and I quote, cash and carry system of old, but now in disguise. 2, no laboratory tests can be conducted in the hospital due to the lack of equipment and reagents. So patients are again compelled to access laboratory services from private sources outside the hospital, which services they have to pay for, even though they hold their NHIA card, which entitles them to free medical services. There is also a serious shortage of oxygen to undertake operations or even support patients who need to be supported with artificial respiration. 4, there is also no central sterile supply department. The hospital depends on one small and old autoclave, which breaks down frequently. When this happens, the hospital has to call on Bible Polyclinic for sterilization of its operational and dressing parts. Mr. Speaker, to make matters worse, the hospital has repeatedly suffered from availability of resident doctors, and this issue has been one with a checkered history. Indeed, the first time the Laura Hospital had a resident medical doctor was in 1995, when I was Deputy Regional Minister. One Dr. Oklu was posted to the hospital as its first resident medical doctor since the establishment of the hospital in 1928. Since the departure of Dr. Oklu around 2009 or so, the hospital has had to make do with shift arrangements. Mr. Speaker, this is how one concerned citizen of the municipality, one Kapla Emmanuel, in bemoaning the problems of Laura Municipal Hospital in a write-up sometime last year, summed it up, and I quote, "The absence of a resident medical officer in a greater part of its existence has often left the healthcare needs of the people in the hands of nurses and medical assistants," unquote. Mr. Speaker, I could not agree with him more, as this situation has definitely impacted negatively on health delivery, which has sometimes occasioned avoidable deaths. Mr. Speaker, recently, however, 2 medical doctors have been posted to the hospital after a long spell of no doctor syndrome, coupled with intense complaints. We do not know how long these doctors are going to stay, given the past history of the hospital. Mr. Speaker, currently as I speak, there is a shortage of child health records, the booklets, for pregnant women and children, and the hospital needs a total of 5,000 of them. There's also the need to procure more iron, folic acid for pregnant women who visit the facility. Last but not the least, the hospital needs motorbikes to facilitate health service delivery and a complete furnishing of the neonatal intensive care unit in order to operationalize it. There is the emergency ward, which is being constructed by the Northern Development Authority. Indeed, there is the urgent need to speed up its completion where it is needed. Mr. Speaker, it is not possible for me to list all problems of the Laura Municipal Hospital today, but suffice it to say that these are some of the problems which have bedeviled the Laura Hospital and militated against the efficient health delivery, and thereby make it difficult for the hospital to operate optimally as a municipal hospital. The people are therefore crying for immediate attention and solution. Mr. Speaker, considering the dire consequences the state of the Laura Hospital could bring to the inhabitants, it may still be necessary for government in addressing these challenges to also adopt a holistic strategy and approach in resolving the problems confronting the entire health sector. For now, I'm appealing to the Minister of Health and the government as a matter of urgency to come to the aid of the Laura Municipal Hospital so as to not only give it the dignified status that it deserves, but also to enable its adequate and quality health care to the people of the municipality. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for my condolence.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Nabdam. I'm admitting only 2 contributors, please. So, Honorable Member for Nabdam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for permitting me to important state all this contribution. And thanks to colleagues who made these important statements. Indeed, your statements are just like a summary of the whole problems that we have in the healthcare system of the country. Mr. Speaker, one hospital and Laura District Hospital, if you look at where they are situated, you might think that they are situated in an urban area where things are not so bad. But in actual fact, the inhabitants or those who attend those hospitals are rural or emerging suburban sort of settlements that we have over there. So it is quite difficult for them to contribute so much as internally generated fund to assist run the hospitals. And we know that this, for example, the Wild Hospital is a regional hospital, is supposed to provide specialist care to the inhabitants living around the area and contribute to improvements in SDG 3, the attainment of what? Universal health coverage. But Mr. Speaker, if you look at the statements, first and foremost, you realize that they don't have enough resources to even run those hospitals. For proper budgetary allocations to assess them. If you take one hospital, for instance, they are talking of the lack of stable supply of electricity to the facility. Without this stability, all the equipment that they have, CT scan, radiology and ultrasound scan, etc., that they have, they cannot use it, or they will break down. And we spend a lot of money buying this equipment. And if we don't fix this problem, then we are in bad business. We spend so many millions of cedis, about 50 or 60 million Ghana cedis, to build these hospitals. Only that it is left with, from the statement, it is left with only 1 million Ghana cedis. Or we can use 1 million Ghana cedis to fix the electricity problem. No money syndrome now sets in. We say we don't have what? The money to do that. Then comes the human resources that we're talking about. Mr. Speaker, in 1993, when I completed those days, I was what attracted area was the accommodation. When you went there, you had a nice accommodation that at least you could start with But now, the situation is quite different. Most of the district hospitals that you go, they have very old accommodation facilities. That's if you are lucky to get accommodation. If you're not lucky, when you go the first time, they might put you in a nice hotel. But after some time, you have to find your own level. So, the problems are many, and unless we actually have very good efforts, we cannot solve it. Look at the specialists. We need specialist doctors at our teaching hospital. Or else, without the human resource, the facility is just like any other facility. Unless we get the specialists to accept to take the postings there, it will be like any district hospital or any health center. And we cannot get them there. 80% of the doctors that are trained are hiding in Accra and Kumasi. The rest of the 20% of us actually found our way in other towns in Ghana. So, Mr. Speaker, the problems are numerous. I know we are talking of Agenda 111. Yes, Agenda 111, but if there's, to me, problems that are elementary, constructing 101 hospitals. If we can provide the human resource requirements for these hospitals, if we can provide the medical consumables for these hospitals, and we are talking of Agenda 111, then what are we talking about? Mr. Speaker, he spoke about the National Health Insurance Authority and then the out-of-pocket payments at the hospitals, the lack of drugs, the under-the-table payments, probably at some hospitals, and it draws my attention to healthcare financing in this country. We really have a problem of healthcare financing, and we've all covered our eyes as if everything is going on well. But we as MPs, we are paying medical bills. Every day, if people have insurance and we are paying for them, there's the need to let the minister work hard. If you open to page, I think 34 of the National Health Insurance Authority formula that they brought, there's supposed to be an actuary study that was carried out in 2019. Possibly, if we study that document, we'll be able to understand why all these shortcomings in the health sector is taking place. We need to force the minister to bring us this document. Let's have a look at it, and let's see whether if we implement it, or if we look at it, it will help us to implement our national health insurance policies and ensure that these out-of-pocket payments and under-the-table payments that are taking place in our hospitals will be a thing of the past. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the problems are not only limited to the Upper West. In Upper East, we have similar problems, and practically in most parts of northern Ghana, the problems are real. And unless we tackle them, head on, unless we really hold on and are ready to solve it, if we cover our eyes, if we continue to keep quiet, as if there are no problems, I'm telling you that it will spread and come to the rest of the country. I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
West Region. Okay, let him give the opportunity to Honorable Deputy Minister for Water and Sanitation, who was formerly the Deputy Regional Minister. Is that so? Yes. Okay. So you have a lot of input. So.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank
my two colleagues from the Upper West region for making a very, very important statement. Health, they say, is wealth. If the state of the health of the people is in good stance, then you can be sure that productivity will increase. And the reverse is also true. So any effort at delivering health care to the people of the Upper West region and any part of Upper West is critical. And so I thank the makers of the statement for drawing government and state institutions' attention to some of the challenges that confront the regional hospital and also Laura Municipal Hospital. Mr. Speaker, about a year ago, His Excellency the President commissioned the new regional hospital in the Upper West region. And one of the major issues that actually delayed the operations of the hospital was lack of staff by the Ministry of Health. And thankfully, the Health Minister granted some personnel to be recruited so that they could be deployed to a new regional hospital. And I think, I don't have the exact figure, but I know that over 150 people, both doctors, nurses, and other auxiliary staff were recruited under that particular clearance. So the Ministry of Health actually did well by giving clearance for recruitment to be done so that the new regional hospital could start. Mr. Speaker, I can say that from the point of the commissioning and the operationalization of the regional hospital, the number of referral cases that used to occur from the Upper West region to other major hospitals in Ghana, such as Kumasi and Tamale, have reduced drastically. And so I think that the new regional hospital has played a very key role in reducing the number of referrals, thereby reducing the burden on families who often were referred to go to Kumasi or Tamale. And we all know the consequences of being referred to a distance place with the patient. And so I believe that the commissioning and operationalization of the new regional hospital has brought a lot of relief to families across the region and has reduced financial burdens on families. Mr. Speaker, I totally agree with my colleague who made a statement about the regional hospital, that in spite of the effort government made in terms of commissioning the hospital, recruiting staff, and making available some used vehicles and other facilities to support the operationalization of the hospital, there are a lot of challenges that still confront the new regional hospital that has to be looked into. The issue of seed capital, I mean, it's a critical matter that he has raised that I think the government has to look at it. For you to start a regional hospital without any seed capital and the hospital has to run on internally generated funds, certainly isn't that can work. And so I add my voice in appealing to government to, as a matter of agency, support the hospital with seed capital. I also agree with him on the issue of having a dedicated power line. The hospital has come with a lot of new machines and technology. And if you know the number of units and the number of machines that are in the hospital compared to the previous regional hospital that we had, clearly it shows that the new hospital will need to get a dedicated power line so that operations can be effective and efficient. And as former Deputy Regional Minister, I'm aware that my boss, who is currently the Regional Minister again, is making effort in collaboration with the VRA to get a dedicated line for the new regional hospital. And I'm confident that in the shortest possible time, that will. Mr. Speaker, like I said earlier, in terms of personnel, a lot of people have been recruited, and my information is that at the moment we have about 7 specialists who are working in the hospital, and that has accounted for the fact that
the reason that we don't have a lot of referrals to other hospitals in other places in the country. Mr. Speaker, it is also true that the new regional hospital has a component that has to do with training of personnel. Unfortunately, because of inadequate staff, this particular component is underutilized. But my understanding is that the airline that was operationalized in the Upper West region, which unfortunately has to stop because of obvious reasons, is being worked on. Once that is done and the airline become operational, I am sure that the hospital itself is in collaboration with Ghana Health Service going to get other specialists who can fly into the region and work at the hospital and fly back to Accra or whichever part of the country. And when we get there and the airlines are operational, I'm sure the presence of specialists who can fly in and out will help ensure that this particular aspect of the new regional hospital is utilized. Mr. Speaker, the hospital has started on a good note. They are doing well. A lot of referrals have been stopped or reduced drastically, and so all of us must support the hospital to achieve this. And I remember the Honorable Regional Minister, together with the Regional Director of Health Service, recently, through the Honorable Member, organized a meeting of all MPs from the region. And I wasn't there, but my honorable colleague attended, and they had broad discussions as to how we as members of parliament can use our position to influence and ensure that the regional hospital gets the needed support so that it can improve its services to the people of Upper West. Mr. Speaker, before I take my seat, let me also add a very brief word to the maker of the statement, the MP for Laura. I think it's one of the oldest health facilities in the region, and many districts have benefited from the Laura Municipal Hospital. It has served our people well, in spite of the many years that it has existed. I think over 100 years now, it still has a lot of challenges. But the last time I was there for a program, the Director of Health Service and the Medical Director, their major concern was the annual flooding of the hospital, for which reason I remember the former Member of Parliament, through the Northern Development Authority, was able to negotiate to get the fence wall project awarded on contract, which has been started, and I'm sure that when completed, flooding in the hospital will be a thing of the past, and other requests the Honourable MP has made. We, as members of Parliament from the region, having this facility as one of the longest serving facilities in the region, should continue to put our heads together, and I'm confident that with time the problems will be reduced, and these hospitals, both the regional and the Laura hospitals, will render services to our people and will bring relief to our people, and productivity will be increased eventually. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute.
Thank you, honourable members. You've brought statement time to a conclusion. You spent more than 4 hours, and therefore I'll come to leadership for direction.
Right, Honourable Speaker. As you rightly said, we've spent a lot of time. What's your pleasure, Honourable Speaker? We are in your hands.
Yes, Honourable Deputy Minority Whip.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are in your hands. Thank you.
Very well. If all of you are in my hands, then I'll bring proceedings to a close. We are therefore adjourning today's sitting till tomorrow, Wednesday, 30th June, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I repeat the time, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's going to be 2 o'clock on the dot. I thank you for your attention.